San Diego, it's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? And happy Monday to everybody out there in America's finest city. A little gloomy today to get the morning started, but we've had some pretty good weather for the month, for the majority of the month of June, that will wrap up here in the next 7 days or so. Get you ready for July, and that's where you're really getting to the meat of the Major League Baseball season. July brings the All-Star break. It brings the trade deadline. It brings the 4th of July, which is always a fun event for Major League Baseball as well, and a lot to get to coming up in the next couple of weeks or so. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Welcome into the Braden Surprenant Show, live and local each and every day from 10 to 2. We will have some mixing of shows next week that I think I can tease but not officially say yet. A couple of more vacations mixed in there. We will be here throughout the rest of the summer. Now, whether or not we will be starting at 10 in the morning a couple of times here and there remains to be seen, but we'll keep you updated when schedules move about. We have a lot to talk about today and a lot to discuss on the Braden Surprenant Show. Frank Marchese did a good job putting the rundown down last night and over the weekend, just to have to redo it again this morning with all the breaking news that we got. Welcome to working in sports talk radio. We have a lot to get into that happened today. We're going to talk more about, and I think this was kind of cool. You know, Alden Gonzalez was at a lot of those Padres games the last couple of weeks, especially the ones involving the Dodgers, and he put out a new breakdown of what we know right now about the Wild National League West. We know a lot of things about the National League West. And let me tell you, it is a wild National League West. We'll talk more about this later on in the show. But you had the fireworks last week of Padres Dodgers. The San Francisco Giants continue to not go away. Arizona still hanging around and winning baseball games. This is a fun division. This is the best division in Major League Baseball. And could you imagine if the Rockies were just competent? If they were just competent, how crazy would that division be? And it's going to get even more wild as we start getting to the nitty-gritty months. And right now, the San Diego Padres are at 42-35. They sit just outside of a wild card spot, although I'm not really worried about that. And they're within 5 games of the National League West division, despite the difficult stretch that they just went on. And we could talk about that stretch. That's something else we could talk about. The first difficult stretch of the Major League Baseball season for the San Diego Padres is now complete. Again, there was the amount of games in a row is one thing, and I trimmed off the Pirates series, and I'm trimming off this Nationals series. I'm just talking about start to finish with really good teams that you had to deal with. That stretch is now officially over. From June 2nd against the Giants to June 22nd against the Royals. The Padres split with the Giants. They took 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee to go +1. They lost 2 out of 3 from LA to go even. They lost 2 out of 3 to Arizona to be down 1. They lost 3 out of 4 to LA to be down 2. They won a series against Kansas City, which means they finished that particular stretch 1 game under 500. But relatively played around 500 ball. So I think overall they weathered the storm. I don't know what you guys think. I think they weathered the storm. Because this is a difficult stretch where things could have got really worse for the San Diego Padres. They lost a couple games in the standings, obviously with the Dodgers. They lost a little bit of ground. But they got through the second most difficult stretch of the Major League Baseball season. It would have been better if they were a game above 500. It would have been better if they finished even 500 during this particular stretch. But they finished one game under 500 from June 2nd to June 22nd. And now they have the Washington Nationals. Now, the Padres this year have done very well against teams below 500. And they're going to have to continue that against Washington. Cincinnati comes in over the weekend, or Padres go to Cincinnati. They're around 500. You got to deal with the team that you never are able to beat ever in Philly. And then you finish up the first half of the season with a long homestand against Texas, Arizona, and Philadelphia. So I like playing. Arizona doesn't scare me, even though they took 2 out of 3 from the Padres in Arizona. I think a little bit of a miscue there by Robert Suarez in that game is kind of a fluke loss for the Padres. It was a terrible loss for the Padres. But at the same time, those are losses that are going to happen over the course of a 162-game season. Texas is kind of hanging around, and again, you got Philly at home. You got to try to weather the storm against Philly, and that's it for the first half. You got Washington, Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Texas, Arizona, Philadelphia, and then it's the All-Star break for the San Diego Padres. You start the second half against Washington and Miami. You got St. Louis, who's kind of still hanging around before you take on the Mets. It's a time to start racking up some wins. But overall, going one game under 500 over this stretch is not that big of a deal. If you want to add in the Pirates series, even though I don't think the Pirates are very good, with the Padres taking 2 out of 3 from the Pirates, then you finish 500. So the Washington Nationals series in there because that's the big long stretch in terms of games. You take 2 out of 3, you'll finish above 500 on this particular stretch of time. Again, the second most difficult stretch of the season. You look at August, I mean, you start looking at August, man, and August has a rougher stretch, and it gets even more difficult. The fact that St. Louis is still relatively in competition in 2025. Now, by the time you start August 1st, the trade deadline would have already passed, so we'll see what the teams are going to be like. There's a couple of fringe teams in there, like the Boston Red Sox, who the Padres have rumored to potentially be interested in Jarren Duran. That was a while ago. I haven't heard too much more of that since then. But they already traded Devers. Who knows if the Red Sox are going to sell anything more? St. Louis is another one of those teams. They were looking to sell Arenado at the beginning of the year. They started to play a little bit well. They couldn't get a buyer for Arenado. So we'll see what the Cardinals are at in the second half of the season. I think you can say the same thing about the Twins and the Mariners. But the Mariners did really well against the Padres, and Cal Raleigh continues to rank for Seattle. So you look at August for the most difficult stretch of the season, and it got even more difficult with St. Louis being competitive. Cardinals, then the Diamondbacks, then the Red Sox, then the Giants, Dodgers, Mariners. You finish August with the Twins. Twins at that point will probably be out of contention. But your month of August is going to be incredibly difficult. So you got to find ways to win in certain areas while you can. This is why this series against Washington is important, while it's important to take on teams like the Reds, and why you got to take care of business against teams that are under 500. They get a little bit more of a break as we kind of just get you ready for the second half of the season. We still got a couple of weeks left of the first half. But the month of September is a lot easier than the month of August. If you can make it through August, you can rack up a lot of victories in September. Baltimore, Colorado, Cincinnati, Colorado. You got to deal with the New York Mets in the middle, which is a difficult team. Chicago White Sox, Milwaukee Brewers. You finish with Arizona. That's a lot of wins on the season for the Padres in the month of September. But they made it through the first stretch, one game under 500. Their second big stretch in August. And until then, you got to try to play and win 2 out of 3 in all of these series coming up. Overall, this weekend, I thought the Padres played pretty well. I thought Friday night, even though the Padres lost, I think the comeback was good. Being able to come back from, really putting yourself in a hole to start the night. Nick Pivetta was okay. 4 2/3 innings, gave up 4 runs. That home run early by Bobby Witt Jr. really set the tone for Kansas City. Padres battled back in 2 different times. Unfortunately, the bullpen gave it up. and you lose game 1 of the 3-game series. But again, you got to think about it series to series. I mean, that night we were discussing, Frank and I, via text, like, oh, so much for building off of the emotional game the night before. But you know what? You took 2 out of 3. In baseball, it's not just necessarily the next day. In baseball, it could be the next series. And to me, you took 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. You've now won 3 of your last 4, and you go back on your winning ways. Xander Bogaerts continues to swing a hot bat. He looks way different and more comfortable in the box. This is a very small sample size, but we have seen Xander's batting average go from like 233 to 252 in a matter of a couple of games. Just a couple of games. Padres need him to be able to do that. So hopefully he can continue that. Not only is Xander hitting the ball well, Fernando's starting to hit the ball a lot better. And I love the lineup that they had yesterday, even though it took a long time to get them going. You could blame the home run robbery yesterday. I mean, Merrill pieced that ball. He was kind of unlucky in his first game back. But you got Merrill back in the lineup, moves everybody around. Now Bogaerts gets the bat 6th. And the lineup yesterday was finally the lineup that we've been talking about for the last couple of months. And yes, I don't mind Arise batting 4th. We'll talk more about that later on in the show. We got to break down NASCAR potentially coming to San Diego. We've teased it a lot. We'll talk about that today. I thought the umpire ejection for the College World Series a couple of days ago went way too far. Or yesterday it went way too far. We'll talk about that. We'll break down the rumors about how to make a Luis Robert trade work for the San Diego Padres. Might be something else out there. Who knows? San Diego State and more importantly, the Pac-12 conference gets a TV contract done with one entity. There's going to be more apparently on the horizon. We'll get you all the details on that. We'll preview the series against the Washington Nationals and kind of recap the NBA Finals last night. A lot to get to on the show today. Really appreciate you guys joining us today. If you want to get involved, join us on the phones, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We're going to take a deeper look in yesterday's game with a decision that I thought was wrong, but ended up being right. We'll talk about that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. 10:17 on a Monday. Make sure you tune in to Manager's Report with Mike Schilt this Friday at 9 in the morning on Ben and Woods. The Manager's Report is refreshed by EcoWater SoCal. Try alkaline water for just $9.95 a month. EcoWater SoCal keeping it soft since 1925. Let's talk a little bit about manager Mike Schilt and the decision he made yesterday. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was the wrong decision, too. I was like, there's no way. I can't believe. I mean, yesterday and you can break it down. And Frank and I were texting during this entire ordeal. But during yesterday's game, what inning was it, by the way? It was like seventh inning. Seventh inning. You have an absolute circus on the mound in the left-hander for Kansas City. And I'm trying to pull up the box score here so I can get everything exact accurate on this particular situation. But it's the seventh inning. Padres are down. And the left-hander reliever that has come into the game for Seth Lugo is an absolute circus. Throwing from the left side. And I think it was with 2 outs, if I'm not mistaken, Frank.
Yeah, I think it was.
It's 2 outs. And you have runners on, I think runners are on first and third.
Yeah, because I think the bases were
loaded.
loaded.
They walked the bases loaded, right?
Yeah, it was a hit, and then the next 2 were walks. So yeah.
All right, here we go. I got it now. So Merrill doubles to get the inning started. Machado flies out for 1 out. They put in Angel Zerpa for Seth Lugo. He gets a rise to ground out, which advances Merrill to third. And then Zerpa goes walk to Gavin Sheets with 2 outs to put first and third, and then walks Xander Bogaerts. So now the bases are loaded with 2 outs. Left-hander Angel Zerpa, who has now faced the minimum he needs to face before he gets taken out as a left-hander, is on the hill, and the Padres have Jake Cronenworth coming up. Well, they decide to go with a pinch hitter. And in doing so, the Royals have decided to move to Lucas Erceg to replace Angel Zerpa. In the moment, again, decisions in the moment. I was like, why are they pinch hitting Jake Cronenworth right here? I understand it's lefty-lefty. Zerpa can't find the strike zone. He can't find the strike zone. And if you put in Jake Cronenworth, they're going to take Zerpa out anyway. So it's not even like, it's not even like that they were going to, it's not even like that they weren't going to move things around. You weren't going to get a better matchup by putting the righty up there. They knew that as soon as you move Iglesias in, they'll just go make the change. And I think you have a better chance with Cronenworth, even though he has not been very good as of late. And he's been on the slump. I mean, Iglesias haven't been very good either. And so they go with the change of bringing in Jose Iglesias in for Jake Cronenworth. So again, they go to Lucas Erceg, who replaces Angel Zerpa, who is a zoo. And then Iglesias gets the knock to drive in the 2 runs to tie the game up at 2 apiece. Before Trenton Brooks ends up striking out swinging to end the inning. It worked out. I mean, it worked out. I thought it was an interesting decision for Iglesias to be up there instead of Cronenworth. And I get the righty-righty, lefty-lefty. But I mean, that tells you where you're at with Jake Cronenworth right now. But it ends up being a very good move for Mike Schilt. Again, I was thinking about it in the moment. I was like, I don't know if I like this. I can't sit here and say I like it now because it worked out. I didn't like it in the time. I just didn't make any sense. It made some sense, but you leave him in, and Zerpa's pitching. I mean, Zerpa might walk Cronenworth too. So they take Zerpa out. They put in Erceg, and Iglesias gets the knock. Here's what Mike Schilt had to say about Iglesias and pinch hitting Cronenworth.
Cronen's an everyday guy. It's a tough look. Zerba with the lefty. So, they're going to go to the righty and Jose's going to take a good at bat. It's what he did, man. He battled his tail off, got down 2 strikes a couple times, and just found a way. He's a, bat to ball, good player, man. Finds a way to get it done, has great approaches, knows what he's doing clearly, and made 3 big plays. The 2-run single, they pinch hit, the relay in the ninth, which maybe talk about in a little bit, but then the 2-strike, find a way, get it in play. Louis got a good jump and definitely helps win a ball game.
Mike, you don't see since the pitcher 3-pitch or 3 at bat rule came in, you don't see a whole lot of maneuvering inside of an inning like we saw in the 8th inning today with multiple pitching changes, left-right matchups. You enjoy that kind of a chess match inside of an inning like that? You don't get a whole lot of chances of doing that throughout the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's different. I mean, you do see it. You get find the lane. We do it. I do enjoy it. You like I said, as soon as Schreiber gets up, that they're going to, the question I go over to Victor to talk about during the sheets at bat is like, okay, just who do we like better? Is it going to be Crony on the lefty, or is it going to be Iglesias on the righty? And, so we hit, they go, and we, made the decision to go with Jose.
They decided to go with Jose Iglesias. It worked out, got the knock. Here's what Iglesias said on facing a righty in the 7th inning.
I was playing every day in my whole career, so righty lefty is equal for me. Facing good pitching over there, the bullpen, pretty much every team had a great bullpen, every great arm, so I was able to put a good swing on it.
He mentioned again his 14-year career. This is the first time he's ever been a bench piece. This guy's always been a starter his entire career. Maybe that's been somewhat of a factor for his production or lack thereof in certain entities as he adjusts to this particular role. He had a really good game yesterday. I mean, it was the Jose Iglesias game for the Padres on a Sunday that they needed to win bad to get another series win in June. It had been a while since the Padres had won a series. You had to go back to the Brewers series. I mean, most of the Pirates series was in May. Padres hadn't won a series since I came back. So what does Iglesias have to say about how he prepares now in his new bench role?
It's like you said, it's my first time in 14 years that I'm in this role. We're still adjusting routine and each and every day learning about when to start my routine, when to, it's a process, but, each and every day I feel more comfortable at it. I just got to be prepared. I treat it every day like I'm starting the game, and that's the mentality I had.
Jose Iglesias comes up big in that particular instance. Great to see out of the Padres. You got to get some of that production off the bench. You need some of those veteran leaders on the bench. And so a little bit, I think, needs to be Iglesias adjusting to his role. I did not really think about it from that perspective, but now thinking out loud about what Jose Iglesias brings. I mean, for a guy that has always been a starter for 14 straight years, it's different to come off the bench now. It's different to change your mentality. I mean, when you're an everyday starter, I'm going to be in the lineup somewhere. I know what position I'm relatively going to play. He's probably been a little bit more of a utility guy than anything else in his career, but it's a different routine. And people are really into the routines. I mean, I was saying today, my routine was thrown off today. I've had, family in town the last couple of weeks, staying at our house here and there. And it's thrown my routine off. I have to make an adjustment on my routine. Every day in the summer. And I can't believe I'm still doing it. I was driving to practice this morning at 5:45 in the morning. And I was sitting there driving going, I can't believe I'm willingly doing this anymore, because I hated this as a high school kid. I hated going to 6 a.m. practice in the summer. It was like the worst thing. Getting up at 5-something in the morning to go work out from 6 to 9 in the morning every single day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And now I've done it for 9 years willingly as a coach. But my routine in the summer is like getting up at 5 in the morning, going to coach high school football, doing our workouts, doing all that stuff. On Mondays, I go work out, which I lost a major battle today at workout. I got to tell you about that later on the show. Picked a fight with a band, and the band won. I tell you that. I don't like doing pull-ups with bands, but it proved why. We'll talk about that later on. I'm not afraid to be self-deprecating. I will do that every once in a while, especially if it's fun content and funny content for the show. Thank God nobody was filming. But anyway, go to practice, go to workout, come back. I usually got coffee brewed in the pot, ready to go. I hit the coffee after the workout. I know you can do it before. I don't want to get in the coffee before, after workout. For me, I do it after on the way to work. Coffee's gone. Coffee's been gone every single day. My aunt and uncle drink like 2 pots by themselves, and I don't have time to make the coffee. We're on a strict trying to get from here to here to here to here. After I got like 15 other things I got to do. I'm going to hit OTL later, getting I got 4 softball games tonight. But that being said, my routine is off. It kind of throws me off. It throws off my day. This is a small example of that. I think there's a lot of people that are built in their routines. My dad is one of those people. He does the same thing almost every single day. He likes his routine. And there's a lot of people like that. And the same thing goes for baseball players. The same thing goes for pitching. That's why there's a major difference between being a reliever and being a starter. When you're a starter and you're part of your routine, you know what you're going to do the day you pitch, you know what you're doing the day after you pitch, you know what you're doing the next day, and you build up for your next start, and everything's intact. That's why you don't like mixing guys up in the rotation too much. Everybody's got a routine. And for players that are in the big leagues, they are at an elite level in their industry. And people that are at an elite level in their industry, at the top of their industries, have these routines. That's why you see these like mock things on social media with like, oh, it's my daily morning where I throw bathwater in my face. You can make fun of that all you want. But successful people have these routines. They go to bed at the same time. They're disciplined. They wake up at a certain time early in the morning, get a workout in. So when you have a player like Jose Iglesias, who has had a very successful 14-year career in Major League Baseball as a starter, there needs to be a little bit of a transition period for him being a bench piece. And so maybe over the last couple of weeks, we've started to see Jose Iglesias do that a little bit. The Padres need him to be that. They need him to be a bench piece. They need him to be able to go out there and come up to bat when his name is called. There are certain guys that can't necessarily do those things. There's a lot of guys that are upset that they can't just be a DH. They have to be in the field, gets their juices flowing. And when you have the luxury to be a good enough player that you're a starter where that happens, it's cool. But eventually, sometimes you have to make the adjustments just to keep your career alive. It's the same thing with like NFL players, right? There's a lot of NFL players that don't see themselves as special team players. In reality, most players that play football don't view themselves as a special teams player. Nobody does. It's a very rare group of people and kickers that view them as special teams players. But special teams helps you make a team. Special teams keeps your career alive. I got to coach with Derek Smith over at Cathedral. Derek Smith, middle linebacker, played for 12 years in the National Football League. The last like 6 or 7 years, he was like strictly doing special teams, kept his career alive, kept the paycheck flowing. Same thing can be said about players like Jose Iglesias and being a bench player, a role player, a pinch hitter off the bench, defensive replacement. That will make you a team. That will keep you on a team. And so he's going through that process. He mentions it multiple times in this particular scrum post game. And if that wasn't a factor, he wouldn't have mentioned it. It's the first we've heard it out of him. So it's good to see him adjusting to this role. He almost single-handedly won the game for the Padres yesterday. Love seeing that out of Jose Iglesias. That was yesterday's win. Jackson Merrill was back yesterday. We'll talk a little bit about him, and we'll also talk about Saturday's win. There's a couple of things I saw Saturday in the stands that I thought was very important for the Padres as we continue on the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. 10:37, 10:38. I got pumped by the clock. It changes every 60 seconds. You know that, Frank?
That's the rumor I heard.
Is that what happens with a clock?
That is the rumor going
got a
around.
new one, new time every 60 seconds. I guess you could say it's brand new every second, every millisecond. Now we're having deep thoughts. That's going to confuse our audience a little bit. Let's not do that.
No.
833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to join the Braden Surprenant show today, talking Padres baseball for the first couple of hours. We got a Pac-12 deal with a television entity. We'll let you know if it's good or not. Didn't mention any finances to it, so that's fun. We'll talk about that later on. College World Series happened over the weekend. LSU won a national championship in baseball. A little bit of controversy in the first inning. I've seen takes from both sides. We'll discuss that coming up in the 11 o'clock hour. We got a lot of trades that might happen over the trade deadline. People are starting to leak out information of conversations that teams are having about potential trades. Plus, the National League West is incredibly wild. And it might get even more wild. That's all coming up next on the show throughout the next couple of hours. Let's talk a little bit about yesterday's game with Jackson Merrill being back, and then we'll talk about what I saw in Saturday's game that I think is important. Yesterday, Merrill went 1 for 4 in his return to the lineup, but he did hit the ball hard every single at-bat. That's why sometimes you got to look at the process more than the results. The results say 1 for 4. The process says, I hit the living snot out of the ball. Exit velos for his 4 at-bats yesterday. 104.8 miles an hour in his first at-bat, which is a fly out to center. He hit 97.8 miles an hour on his 4-3. His double, he hit 109.1 miles an hour. And then his F9, which might be one of the deepest F9s you could possibly get at Petco Park, was hit at 98.3 miles an hour. Jack Caglione had a great play on that particular catch. But it's good to have Jackson Merrill back in the lineup. I was sick and tired of answering the question, why is Xander Bogaerts batting 5th? And my response was, who else is going to bat 5th? Jackson Merrill's on the injured list. Is it going to be Bryce Johnson, Trenton Brooks? Is it going to be Jose Iglesias, even though he's a bench player? Is it Elias Diaz? I mean, Brandon Lockridge? How many of those guys you want batting 5th? Xander was the best option. And then, wow, look what happened. Jackson Merrill came back, and guess where Xander hit? He hit 6th. Wow. Can't believe it. Here's some of the things that Mike Schilt had to discuss when talked about Jackson Merrill's return to the lineup and what the lineup change was like. I was in full favor of the lineup change. We'll see if they stick to it. Mike Schilt.
That was fantastic. We're a couple inches away from not needing the theatrics maybe in the ninth, but I thought it was great. Just missed one first at bat. Started the 2-run inning with a double down the line. Yeah, another good swing. I thought he, basically picked up. Looked like Jackson.
What do you like about connecting him and Tatis to top the order and then the decision to put Arise fourth?
Something I was mulling over before Jackson got the concussion. Good news is we have interchangeable parts. I like a pretty fixed lineup. Started to look at it a little bit more. Both of them obviously contributed. Jackson leads off the 2-run inning. Lou leads off and scores a winning run. There's pros and cons to both sides, but mostly pros to both sides. But, having some real, right-handed and left-handed, Louis a presence wherever you put him. He's a quality at bat. He's a pro, and he's clearly a 3-time batting champion. But he also knows how to drive in runs and just frees up a little bit of the top for Jackson and Toddy to go ball out and have Louis sitting there to be able to use his magic wand.
Loved it. We've been talking about it for months on this show. Months. We were first on this. I would like to say. Months ago. What do you like? How would you build the lineup? You always get those questions, especially when the team is struggling. I said at the beginning of the season, I like Fernando 1. I like Jackson 2. I think you get to a spot where you can either go Manny 3 or Arise 4. But it ultimately came down to every single time that I would do the lineup, I want Manny in the first inning to swing. And here's the other thing. For everybody that wants Arise batting leadoff, well, guess what? If it doesn't work out in the first inning, guess who's batting leadoff in the second inning? It's Luis Arise. And people, again, they freak out. They go like, well, Luis Arise isn't a power hitter, and you're a cleanup hitter. It needs to be a power hitter. What is this, 1996? No, he doesn't have to be a power hitter. He doesn't have to be some big bopper. And that'd be Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa. He's a guy that gets hits and puts the ball in play. I am more terrified as a from a defensive pitching standpoint. I am way more terrified of Luis Arise with people on base. And you know what? I go back to the times that the Padres played the Marlins, in which late in a game, Arise would come up with guys on base in less than 2 outs, and I'd be like, oh my God, this might be a problem. Now, is he going to hit a grand slam? Probably not. But you know what? If you have him get a base hit, let's say that's best case scenario. What he usually does is hit a single. A single with the bases loaded and 2 outs, you're scoring 2 runs. Less than 2 outs, you're definitely getting at least 1 run. And you know what's happening? Then you pass it to the next guy, who's probably going to be Gavin Sheets, who is a power hitter. And so not only did you get a run, but now you can get multiple runs. You have to start over again with Gavin Sheets or whoever with nobody on base. Keep the line moving. Yes, we do like multiple people on base for home runs. But sometimes that just aggressiveness and keeping the line moving is just as good. That leads to big innings. And maybe you capitalize at the finish line with a home run. But I like Fernando batting leadoff. 1, he's fast. 2, he's scary. 3, I'll need him coming up as many times as possible. It fits what everybody is doing right now. Get Fernando up as many times as humanly possible. Even though he's struggled as of late, a lot of that might be just him. I don't think moving him out of the leadoff spot's going to change anything. He is your most athletic player. He needs the bat leadoff to start every game. He needs the bat leadoff and get up as many times as possible. He does not need a guy in front of him slowing him down. Now, that kind of throws you some problems in the number 9 spot. I'm going to fix that in a second. So, Fernando bats leadoff. I don't think there's too many questions about that. Number 2, I love Jackson Merrill batting 2. Contact hitter, does have some pop. Extra base hit guy, also fast. Pitcher's got to worry about Fernando on the bases with Jackson up. And guess what? You got Manny behind him protecting Jackson. I way like Jackson Merrill batting second more than I like more than him batting fourth. Jackson Merrill will strike out every once in a while. It's not a lot. It's way less than Luis. Manny's your 3-hitter. He is your best player on the team. Not most athletic, but best player all around. I don't mind him batting 3rd. And then Arise bats 4th. You go with the power hitter in 5 with Gavin Sheets. So now you have back-to-back lefties, which means you got to go Bogart 6. Although I do think that's incredibly overrated. You can have a debate about that with somebody else. If you do it to me, I'm just going to pretend like I'm a brick wall. I'm not having the lefty-lefty, righty-righty debate. I think it's overrated. I think some people think it's overrated. But if you want to protect that, have Bogarts bat 6th. Now Cronenworth's batting 7th. Your 8 and 9 is catcher in left field. I would prefer to have the left fielder bat 9 and have Elias Diaz / Martin Maldonado bat 8th. If you get a new left fielder, which the Padres will probably be doing, it lengthens the lineup even more. But you think about that lineup at full strength. Think about where Bogarts is hitting and think about where Cronenworth is hitting. And then let's talk about what we talked about last week. When everybody was freaking out that the Padres lost 3 games in a row to the Dodgers and like the season's over. Let's go back to that. What did we say on the show? You don't need a Juan Soto type player at the deadline. You just need an average to above average player. You need somebody with a positive WRC plus. In reality, north of 100. Think about that for a second. Any of those fringe players that we have mentioned in the past. Let's look at Luis Robert Jr. for a second. We want to talk about that because that seems to be a fit for the Padres. Don't have to give up too much for Luis Robert Jr. for a couple of reasons. One, he's got a club option next year. If the Padres think that they could keep for $20 million because he plays up to that level, they could exercise the club option. He's on the team. If not, he's a rental. And he's a rental that's not playing very well. You're taking a chance on him. But if you bring in Luis Robert Jr., and hoping for the best. Now, if I brought in Luis Robert Jr., I'd probably try to get another bat. I'd probably go get a DH or a first base bat. But let's say you bring in Luis Robert Jr. I'd still go with Fernando 1, and I'd go with Jackson 2, and I'd go with Manny 3, and I'd go with Arise 4. You could put Luis Robert Jr. 5. Now Gavin Sheets is batting 6th, which means Xander Bogaerts is batting 7th, which means Jake Cronenworth is batting 8th, which means Martin Maldonado or Elias Diaz is batting 9th. Just by adding one player. Just by adding one player. If you add another bat, think about the lineup. Xander Bogaerts batting 5th doesn't really do it for me, even though he's 11 for 19 in his last 19 at-bats. Xander Bogaerts batting 7th or 8th, hey, you know what? That sounds like a playoff lineup. So I like what they did yesterday with the lineup. I think that was great. They finally, listened to the show. Thanks for listening. Love the lineup. I hope they continue to do that. Now, a couple of things from Saturday's game. Saturday's game was also good. You got to see Fernando hit a multi-run homer, which I have to give credit where credit's due. My guy, Matt Perez, who last year was bringing in a ton of losses to Petco Park. So many losses that Nate Taylor in the chat would just ridicule this guy every single time. He kept it a tally. Said, keep that guy away from the ballpark. He's been on a tear in 2025. And not only that, right before Fernando stepped into the box, he said, this is going to be the second multi-run homer at Petco Park for the Padres this season. Sure enough, it was. What a call. What a call. But there was something about that at bat that I noticed before it even happened. And now here's the cool thing about the seats that I was sitting in. I was using my parents' seats. They have a little 20-game package. My dad had his 30th high school reunion. The Grossmont Foothillers, class of 1985. They met on Saturday. They had a nice little time. They had a good time at the women's club in Mission Beach, had a good time. So my parents weren't going to use the tickets. They asked if I wanted to go. I said, sure. So me and Matty P went. And from the vantage point, I can look into the Padres dugout. I can't do that in the press box. In the press box, I can't see anything in the dugout. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching. It's in that inning where Fernando hits the multi-homer home run. Multi-run homer. The 3-run homer put the Padres over the top to win on Saturday. Xander's in the dugout with an iPad. And he is showing Tatis something. I don't know what it is. I mean, it could be like Xander just being like, hey, look how sick I am right now. I'm so locked in. I don't think that was the case. But he tells Fernando to come over. He shows him the iPad, and he's scrolling back and forth on it like he's looking at something. And it was right before they put this picture in. And he points at it a couple times. It looks like he's telling Fernando something. Fernando head nod, puts his helmet on, walks up to the on-deck circle, the at-bat in front of him. And he walked up there kind of late. At-bat ends, he goes to the dish, couple pitches in, 3-run bomb. I love that. Now, that's just what I saw. Now, whether or not, again, it could have been Xander being like, I'm so locked in. So hot right now. So locked in. But I still think it was some of those veteran moves of trying to find ways to win. And that camaraderie and getting the players bought in. It's great to see that result. Great to see that result. And it's good to see Xander swinging the bat well, and I hope he continues it. It's still a very small sample size. It's only been a couple of games. I mean, think about that. He's turned it around in a couple of games. He's raised his average above 250. And he's hunting down Fernando's average, who continues to fall down a little bit. But you got to love what you're seeing out of Xander Bogaerts, regardless if you like him or not. If you decide to root against him just to make it look like you're right, go ahead, dude. I mean, that's up to you. But he's starting to turn it around. He looks way more confident. He's hitting the ball, lacing the ball into the outfield. And the Padres need that. And if he's doing that at 6, 7, or 8 in the batting order because you acquired maybe 1 or 2 bats, you're a playoff team. 100% a playoff team. It's the same thing as said about Jake Cronenworth. I said that last year at Baja Ricks on opening day. I said, if Jake Cronenworth is batting in the top 5, you're not in the playoffs. If Jake Cronenworth's batting 7th, you have a playoff team. Because they were batting him super high last year at the beginning of the season. And guess what? When the playoffs rolled around, where was Cronenworth batting? He was batting like 7th. Go look at the 2022 roster in the playoffs and look where some guys are hitting. That is the lineup that you need to put together. And how you do that is by acquiring not necessarily guys like Juan Soto, which they did in 2022, but they could do that adding a Taylor Ward. You could do that adding anybody from Baltimore. You could do that adding a Luis Robert Jr., even though he's struggling right now. You could do that by adding Jesus Sanchez. I mean, there's so many different guys that you can do that with that's not going to cost you a lot, and you're going to be ready for the playoffs. This team is not as far away as people want to make it sound. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Get back to the phone calls when we come back, plus more Padres conversation on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Hour number 2 of the Braden Surprenant Show on a Monday morning. It's always a little bit more fun to talk about the Padres and to do this show after a win. Most notably, a series win. And by the way, a series win against an American League team. When's the last time that happened, Frank? I mean, they've struggled mightily against the American League.
I think it was Cleveland probably at the beginning of the year. Might have been the last one.
That's even worse. Now I'm going to look it up. Last American League team that they played before KC was Toronto. They got swept. And before that was Seattle. What did they do? Got swept.
Yeah.
Thank God for the Halos.
Oh, okay. So it was the
Took
Angels.
2 out of 3 from the
okay.
Angels. But you know what? You would forget about that because last year the Angels swept the Padres at the Big A. Before that series was the Yankees, lost 2 out of 3. Before that was the Rays, got swept. Before that was Detroit, lost 2 out of 3. Before that was Houston, lost 2 out of 3. They did beat the A's 2 out of 3. So they have won. They have swept the Guardians. They took 2 out of 3 from.
You're not really
A's.
helping your case.
They took 2 out of 3 from the Halos, and they have now taken 2 out of 3 from Kansas City. They gotten their. What's their overall record now? Probably still way below 500.
It is. Hold on one second.
Against the American League, which I still think is not as good as the National League. The series against the American League teams, like baseball in general, is already kind of nuts. But like I don't look at the American League and just go like, wow, there's a lot of scary teams over there. Even though the Padres haven't done well against the American League.
It's not as bad as you may think. They're 12-18 now against the American League.
When it's all said and done, they'll probably be around 500.
The good thing to see though, especially coming off of last year where it was a little bit more difficult, 12-10 against the division. You're
nice.
over 500 against the division.
Over 500 against the division, right? Where's that? I don't know why my standings won't give me everything. I have to I have to expand it. Okay, here it is.
2-8 against the East, 10-5 against the Central, 12-10 against the West, and then you're the 12-8 again, 12-18 against the American League.
Did you say 8-2 against the East?
8-2 against the East.
That's pretty good. Well, you haven't played the Mets or the Phillies yet.
No.
That's mostly against the Braves and then the Fish.
Yes.
Do you have the Nationals this week? It'd be nice to be 11-2 against the East, huh?
Nationals are 11-11 against the West.
Did they play the Rockies 7 times already? You start looking at it, and you're like, well, they must have played the Rockies a lot. I know Phillies already played the Rockies.
Let's see here.
Have the Mets played the Dodgers yet?
Yes, the Mets have finished against the Dodgers.
And then
they played the Rockies. They just came off a series against the Dodgers. They just lost 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. They just lost 3 out of 4 against the Rockies. That's entertaining.
Who? Washington?
Yeah, Washington.
They're 11-11, and 3 of their losses are against Colorado.
Yes, they took 2 out of 3 against Arizona, lost 2 out of 3 against San Francisco. So they played everyone except San Diego. So they do have. They've actually taken a series against the Dodgers. The home series in April, they took 2 out of 3.
The world-beating Dodgers. Nationals are 11-11 against the West, 9-9 against the American League, 4-9 against the Central, but it's 8-17 against their division. That explains why they're 15 games out of first place, 11 games out of a wild card.
Yeah, possibly.
Makes a lot of sense.
I could see that being an issue. Not as bad as the Marlins being 3-15 against the West.
It's tough, dude, playing on the West Coast. Braves are 8-20. 8-20 against the West. 6 games below 500. I saw people last week were bitching and complaining about the record against teams above 500 for the Padres. Problem with that is that changes all the time. Like now they're 18-28. If the Braves go above 500, they're going to add. I mean, that adds.
Yeah, they add 6 wins. Yep.
And they become all of a sudden 24-29, which is more on par. And the Braves are 6 games under 500. So the 18-28, it's the games against teams above 500 is super weird because that's ever changing. That's not they were 500 when you played them. So the Padres could have played some teams that were above 500 when they played them that have now collapsed or have done, so it doesn't really, those don't really matter too much. You got to take care of business against teams that are inferior to you, but also at the same time, I used to disagree with this all the time, but now I get it. I've seen the light. It's not who you play. It's when you play them. Right now, you're getting the Washington Nationals kind of limping in 2-8 in the last 10. I mean, say that to the Phillies who just played the Mets. Mets were limping into that series in Philadelphia. And now they're a game out of first place. It's ever fluctuating. It's going to be moving up and down. We've seen almost every team in the National League that has led divisions be like, this is the best team in the National League all year. And they're going to come back down to earth. I mean, the Yankees went on a rough stretch of losing games. They're 3-7 in their last 10. They got swept by Boston, and then they almost got swept by the Halos. So it's going to be moving up and down the entire time. That's why we say all the time, you can't overanalyze every single game, or you're going to go insane. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We are going to talk about Randy Vasquez. But first, we do want to get to your phone calls. Let's get out to Brandon in Carlsbad. Brandon, leading off the week today. What's going on, man?
Big B, always an honor and a privilege to talk to you, brother. San Diego lineage, baby. Born and raised in Carlsbad. I know you're born and raised where? Down in
I'm from Scripps Ranch originally, but
okay, word up. So anyways, analysis paralysis, man. Okay, baseball's a numbers game. We could just go down that wormhole, but we're not. But you just said it. If you look at where our almost mid-season records were in 24, 23, 22, we're doing pretty good. Look who's on the IL that's hurt, or the IR in our pitching staff. Look how great our pitching's been thus far. And we can make tons of gripes. But I could never see Cola doing what he's done for us, or Randy Vasquez. I'm just not that smart. And yet here we are above 500, still in the grind, getting players back on the list. People are starting to heat up again, i.e. Bogarts and getting Merrill back, and Tatis is survived getting hit like a beanpole. So if I have to give you my perspective without getting analysis paralysis, we're not too bad. I would call us a high level top level second tier team because look at the Dodgers. As much as I love to hate, it is what it is. They're doing pretty good with a decimated pitching staff as well. I think we're in a good spot. I always stay optimistic. I do know we have holes. So for all you people in the peanut gallery on YouTube and whatnot, I get it. But other than that, Braden, thanks for always letting me come and just spew it out for you guys. And God bless San Diego. Let's go Padres.
Let's go Padres. Thank you, Brandon. Racket. Another great call by Brandon. I don't know where he was at. He must have been hot. I heard a freeway. The coverage was not great. But you know what? His phone call was great. Gets people fired up. Now, a couple of things from what Brandon had to say. He is an eternal optimist. I wish I was like that. But he's not wrong on a lot of these different things. I'm going to put Frank on the spot again. Record last year at this time. It's probably, I'm gonna make the job easy for you. It's probably around 500. If you go on Baseball Reference and check, it's probably around 500.
What's the record now? Just so I can get the games.
I think there's 6 games above 500 right now.
No,
42 and 35. So, what game?
42 and 35. So that's 77 games.
77 games in. They are.
I'm probably going to be wrong on the math here. I'll go with 30. I'll go with 37 and 41.
That's who you think our record was last year?
Yeah, because I know there was a lull period, and then it came back up, and then it went back down before the All-Star break.
All right, let's see where we're at again. Because last year, there was a point last year where multiple people thought the Padres were winning a World Series, and they didn't.
I remember they were a ways away. They were about 4 or 5 games over 500 right before the All-Star break, and they ended up at 500 at the All-Star, a game over 500 at the All-Star break.
Yes, because they lost their first game of the second half in Cleveland to go 50-50
Yes.
for their first
100
games. And at that point, I was like, there's no way they're turning this thing around. And then about a month later, I was sitting there going like, this team could probably win the World Series.
It's over. We're going.
Last year, through game 77, right? They were 37-40. There were 3 games under 500. They had just been swept by the Mets.
I was a loss off.
They just got swept by the Mets, and they've lost 2 in Philly, and they're trying to salvage a 0-5 road trip with a victory in Philadelphia on Wednesday, June 19th. 77 games in. Getting ready for game 78. 37-40. This year, what are they? 42-35. So it's a complete flip of where they're at. So, again, we go back and forth all the time. People freak out. Understandably so. But you know what? Like I said before, after winning 2 out of 3 from Kansas City, they are 7 games above 500, which means what, Frank?
They're better than they were last year.
Well, that's true. Again, I was looking for a specific answer, so I set you up for failure there.
Yep.
They won their first 7 games of the season. So what does that tell you?
They're 500
They
since
played
the opener.
500 since the opener. What did we say at the beginning of the year? Now, I do not think this amount of wins is going to get you in the playoffs, and I don't think they're going to play 500 ball the rest of the year. But most Major League Baseball teams play 500 ball throughout the season. The Padres went on to a 7-game win streak to start the season. If they went the rest of the way 500, they're on pace for 84 to 85 wins.
Which is right on par with what we all thought at the beginning of the year this team was going to be able to achieve.
That is what everybody was picking, with the exception of Prolific that picked 96 games, which you never know. They could still do that. I'm on the believer side of that. It is exactly what we thought they would be in January. Exactly. They made it through the storm that they had to go through, the second hardest stretch of the season, and now here's an opportunity for them to rack up some wins. That's why it was so important to win the first 7 games of the year. Get off to a great start, because then you can go through some of these spurts that we've seen the Padres go through. And as long as they stay afloat, they are going to be fine. So then later in the year, when you can go on a run, you don't have to go on a run to get over 500 like they did last year. You need to go on a little bit of a run to just secure a playoff spot or solidify the fact that you're in the postseason. That's why the first 7 games was so important to start the year. So the Padres are 42-35 through 77 games. Last year, they were 3 games under 500 and playing their game 78, trying not to get swept. But the team is exactly what you thought they were at the beginning of the season. Before trade deadline, they're a wild card team. It's amazing that the Dodgers are actually underperforming expectations that have given you an opportunity to stay in the divisional race at 5 games. The other thing is San Francisco is playing a lot better than you would expect, but Arizona is also playing less than you would expect. The standings are relatively exactly where you thought everything was going to be at the beginning of the season. The difference is, instead of Arizona being the second best team, it's San Francisco. They basically flip-flopped. Arizona playing around 500 is what I thought the Giants would do. The Giants, being 10 games over 500 and being a team you have to worry about, is what I thought the Arizona Diamondbacks would be. But the Arizona Diamondbacks lost their starting pitching. San Francisco has really good starting pitching. But your standings are exactly what we thought they would be in January. Padres around third place. trying to stay in front of San Francisco, who plays around 500. In this case, it's Arizona, trying to track down the Diamondbacks at number 2. In this case, it's the Giants, and staying relatively in it with the Los Angeles Dodgers, which you're doing because you're only 5 games back. You're currently a half game out of a wild card spot. I think you're going to watch the Padres really solidify that in the next couple of months. I think they're going to be in a safe position in the wild card because I don't really think St. Louis and Milwaukee and Cincinnati can hang around too much longer. But we'll see. We talked about it earlier in the show in the first hour. Add an average bat to slightly above average. We're talking league average bat. It will work wonders for this team. And all of a sudden, the lineup is lengthened, and you will be in a position to win in the postseason. But this is kind of where we thought there would be at this point in time. That's why there's no reason to panic, no reason to freak out. Now let's build up some wins this week against Washington and Cincinnati. You have to do it before you take on Philly, who has never not been a problem for the Padres. I'd be shocked if the Padres win any series against Philadelphia. They never beat them. Which makes this series even more important and the one over the weekend in Cincinnati more important. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's talk about Randy Vasquez. Long-term piece? Or are you getting everything you can get out of Randy? We'll discuss when we come back. Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. Baseball coverage on 97 through the fans, presented by T-Mobile. At T-Mobile.com, I get a great deal on iPhone 16 Pro. Braden Surprenant Show, alongside Frank Marchese. Bringing it 2 o'clock today, and Gwen and Chris before the Equal Water SoCal Padres pregame show gets started at 5:40. Tonight's the bobblehead night that everybody in town wants. The Fernando Tatis Jr. bat flip bobblehead. I'd love to see Fernando hit a home run and bat flip tonight. Be must watch. So that is tonight. Expect big crowds at the ball game tonight. If you are heading down to the ballpark, get down there early. Enjoy your time. Try to get off work a little early. Get down to the ballpark as soon as you can, because you know it's going to be a packed house for Padres and Nationals. Now, that being said, Nationals in town. We are going to get a full preview of the Washington Nationals. Charlie Slows. He's a Nationals broadcaster, original voice of the Tampa Bay Rays until 2004, and he's been the radio voice of the Nationals since 2005. You have heard his calls on air here at 97 through the fan a couple of times. I used to play those all the time when I was running Padres pre and post stuff. Bang Zoom Pow, one of his home run calls. I got to ask him how he came up with that. The curly W. I mean, he's got a lot of great phrases. And you know what? He comes from a very prestigious background of starting at KMOX. For a dude from Brooklyn. It's a pretty interesting story, how he's navigated his way. He's from the Bronx or Brooklyn? Bronx. He's from Bronx. Big Yankees guy, maybe. So, it'll be fun to talk with him. Obviously, Mackenzie Gore, C.J. Abrams, James Wood, Robert Hassel III. I mean, these are some of the players that the Padres gave up for Juan Soto. Now core pieces of the Washington Nationals. I'm sure this will be a major discussion all week. If James Wood hits a home run, people are going to lose their mind. C.J. Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, all those guys. So we'll have a full preview of that when we come back. We want to talk about Randy Vasquez for a little bit. Randy Vasquez, another good outing for the Padres. People are like, oh, he's not going to be able to go through the batting order 3 times, through 89 pitches, 63 strikes. 7 innings yesterday for Vasquez. 2 runs, 5 hits, 2 punch-outs, 2 walks. Aside from the 2-run bomb mistake pitch to Salvador Perez, Vasquez looked good again. 16 starts this season, 3-4. Records don't really mean anything. 3.60 ERA, 80 innings pitched, 45 strikeouts, 37 walks. He needs to get a little bit better of working through the order a third time, but you're watching him limit the walks. He's still walking people, but he's still starting to limit the walks a little bit more. He's getting deeper into pitch counts. And I tell you what, at the beginning of the year, when he was going to be your number 5 starter, putting together a 3-4 record with a 3.60 ERA, that plays as a number 5 starter. He's still a young player, and he looks like he's continuing to improve as a San Diego Padre, which could lead to him being a long-term answer for the Padres. That would save them a ton of money if he could be a long-term answer as a 4 or number 5 in the rotation. Again, he's super young. That's why I'm not worried about him not getting through the order a third time right now. He's going to improve. And as mentioned before about the walks, he has allowed 37 walks on the year, but 11 in his last 7 starts. So he's doing a good job of limiting some of the problems that he has had. And more work with Ruben Niebla, he could be a long-term piece. Here's what Mike Schilt had to say about Randy Vasquez.
Stefanski was fantastic. The one mistake to Perez, but off balance changeup was really good. He was the cutter good. He was getting off barrels. Did a great job. Malty does a good job with him, but credit goes to Vasquez. Huge 7 innings, earning more trust deeper in the games and rewarding it. And just threw the ball very well. As you mentioned, Seth's very good. Wevo does a great job, and we knew we were going to see a guy that really knows how to pitch. And he pitched very well. It was 2 guys that threw the ball exceptionally well. And close game, we were able to execute.
Randy Vasquez is going from a thrower to a pitcher slowly, but he's developing nicely. He's under control for some time, and he's part of that big trade, right? I mean, everyone talks about Michael King. Padres don't have Michael King right now. And maybe if you re-sign Michael King and you have a guy like Vasquez there, I mean, some of your rotation is built for the future. I'm not ready to make Randy Vasquez an ace. I'm not ready for him to, be a number 2 in the rotation. He might have the opportunity to do such a thing. But he's under control for a long period of time. He's a young player. It's not going to cost you a lot of money. And he's a guy that you're going to need, I think, in the future. It makes that trade better for the San Diego Padres with the New York Yankees for Juan Soto. It makes that trade for Juan Soto the first time with the Nationals better. Randy Vasquez is 26 years old, and he's already doing a really good job as a number 5 starter in a rotation, and he's really pitching a lot better. He's probably around a 4 or 3 right now in the rotation based on injuries. He's doing a phenomenal job. Sometimes you don't always need swing and miss. Sometimes it's just, let's get the guy out. The batter fails 70% of the time. He gets himself into the Hall of Fame. Let him do it. Great improvement from a year ago for Randy Vasquez, and he's still improving at only age 26. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Got some news about the College Baseball Hall of Fame class that we might get to in the next segment, but when we come back, we'll get you a full preview of the Padres and Nationals series as Charlie Slows, Nationals broadcaster, joins the Braden Surprenant Show next on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. $11:34 on a Monday morning. Getting you ready for Padres baseball coming up with the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show starting at 5:40 with first pitch coming up at 6:40 on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. I'm Braden Surprenant, leading you into Gwynn and Chris. Tony Gwynn Jr. and Chris Ello. Matt Scraby will be on the airwaves at 2 o'clock. But as we continue on the Braden Surprenant show here in hour number 2, I want to get you a preview of the Washington Nationals coming to town. A lot of familiar faces with the Padres and the Nationals, obviously with that big Juan Soto trade from a couple of years ago. And joining me now, a native of the Bronx in New York City, went to Fordham University, and then went on to start his career in broadcasting at the legendary KMOX, in which he worked with a lot of great broadcasters, and he has developed into a great broadcaster in his own right. He's had relatively close to a Hall of Fame career as he has been a legendary voice of the Washington Nationals. He was the original play-by-play voice of the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. He has seen it all as a broadcaster, and it is an honor to have him on the show. His name is Charles Slows. He's the broadcaster for the Washington Nationals. He joins me on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on, Charlie? How are we doing?
Wow, it's quite an introduction. That's like, this is your life.
I appreciate that. You guys have accomplished a lot. I enjoy. I'm a broadcaster myself. I do play-by-play at the University of San Diego. I love talking to all the broadcasters out there in the Major League Baseball level, because I get to pick your guys' brain a little bit before we dive into the teams that you get to cover. So it is truly an honor to be able to talk to you here on the Braden Surprenant Show. I do want to ask, kind of how you went up, and I've asked every broadcaster this, their best advice for younger play-by-play broadcasters that could be in college or in the minor leagues right now that want to get to where you're at. What's the best advice that you would give a young play-by-play announcer?
Well, it's so different now than when I began, when there was no internet. So trying to get on the radio was a lot more difficult than, say, now, where you can get reps of actual games, because so many games are now internet broadcasts, whether it's college or even the minor leagues. When I was coming up, not every minor league team even had a radio deal to call their games. So there were less opportunities then than there are now in sports broadcasting and play-by-play, period. I did a lot of games where I just had a recorder and I was in the stands or in the booth. It's easy to say, well, I want to do it, but the best advice I can give you is go do it, and go do it a lot, whether it's you're just recording it and listening back to yourself and comparing it to professionals that you listen to try and develop your own style. And, if you get a chance to go to a college that has a good program where you could get on the air and actually do games, that's what I did at Fordham. Back then, we were a student-run radio station, a 50,000-watt FM station in the New York area. So you got heard also, which helped. That would be my best advice. The earlier you make up your mind for what you want to do in life and you work towards it, the better chance you're going to get there before somebody else.
Charlie Slows, Nationals broadcaster, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. I do want to ask about your kind of start your career. You got to start at KMOX. There's been so many great broadcasters that have gone through there. What's it like to look back and go, I can't believe I started my career at KMOX in St. Louis?
Well, it was pretty special. And, people say, well, how did you get there? Life is crazy. I met a guy off campus in a bar on a Saturday night in the Bronx who grew up playing hockey with Emil Francis' son. Now, you may be too young to remember Emil Francis, but at the time that this guy was growing up, Emil Francis was the president, general manager, and coach of the New York Rangers. At the time I met this guy, he was the president, general manager, and coach of the St. Louis Blues, and that was how I got introduced to Emil Francis, who passed some of my stuff on to Dan Kelly, the late legendary Blues hockey announcer, and then he passed them on to the executives at KMOX, and that's what was my connection to get there and eventually get a job there a year out of college.
This is a pretty cool story right there. That's crazy. I mean, that's just,
That's crazy. But, people say, well, you caught a break. I said, but, at the same time, if somehow you get an introduction and somebody's going to hear your stuff, or you're going to get a chance to go on the air and do an audition, which I did at KMOX, you better be ready, better get a base hit.
Right. You get pulled up to the big leagues. You better contribute offensively.
Right. You better smack something up the middle, make good contact that they recognize. You see something, go, oh, because you want to be able to deliver when you get that chance. So, yeah, it was a great experience. In fact, we were just in LA, and the guy I worked for at KMOX when I went there back in 1984, he went on to big things as a producer, executive producer of Access Hollywood, and worked for NBC and CBS. And I think right now he's producing Billy Bush's new podcast because he got into the podcast world. But we were trying to hook up, but he was actually in France when I was in LA. So we were going to do a few trips down memory lane this past weekend, but we'll have to table that for next time.
Charlie Slows, Nationals broadcaster, joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. You mentioned real quick, and
I will
go ahead.
I will say, outside of getting a chance to work at KMOX, developed a relationship with Bob Costas, who was a reference for everything that's happened after that for me. So, some of the people you met along the way that worked through there, growing up in New York, listening to broadcasters and styles in New York, and then going to be around Jack Buck in St. Louis was a great experience.
It's all about who you know and building relationships. And in this day and age with phones, it's very hard to do. I see it at the winter meetings every year with a lot of young broadcasters just handing resumes out, but not talking to anybody. You got to go out there and talk and develop relationships. But you did mention like making it your own. And before we talk about the Nationals, I do want to ask about how you had and how you developed your home run calls, because we play a lot of highlights, on the flagship station, during our pre and post game show. We've played a lot of your highlights over the years. The bang, zoom, pow, and then insert last name here is to me, I just immediately think of the Washington Nationals because of your home run call. You also got another one in going, gone, goodbye. But how did you, develop some of these over the years to make it seem natural?
Some of it is, the going, gone, goodbye. I think that just came from people I listened to growing up, and I liked it. I thought it gives you a chance when the ball's in the air. Hopefully know that it's going to be a home run. The bang zoom really started with, and I was already with the Nationals. Originally, it wasn't in the home run call. When they won a game at RFK Stadium or hit a home run, they would blast off fireworks. So the end of the game call was bang zoom, go the fireworks, or curly W's in the books. But then when we moved to Nationals Park, because of proximity to Capitol Hill and all that, they couldn't set off fireworks without a prearrangement. So there were no fireworks, so that became bang zoom or curly W's in the books. And then I decided to use it for home runs because I wasn't using it as much, and it seemed to fit for home runs. But the bang zoom, if you're an old TV buff of series from the 1950s, the infamous Honeymooners, Jackie Gleason, Ralph Cramden, bang zoom, Alice, you're going to the moon. bang, zoom. I thought it worked for fireworks. I thought it works for a James Wood home run. The zoom is really fast.
Oh, that's cool. I mean, it's interesting some of the stories that come about on how you make your signature calls and everything like that. But let's talk about James Wood. Let's talk about one of the players that the Padres parted ways with for that big Juan Soto trade. He's one of a lot of guys on this Nationals team, Charlie, that had come from the Padres farm system and kind of some young faces of this Nationals, of this Nationals club. How have you seen the Nationals transition from no longer having Juan Soto a couple years ago to now trying to build around really the big Juan Soto deal that they got with the Padres?
Well, it certainly was a game changer, really an organization changer, because the Nationals, Mike Rizzo, our president and general manager now, calls that, you traded away other people before that at the deadline in 21. Schwarber was only with us for a short time, had that monster June. You traded him. You traded Scherzer and turned it to the Dodgers. You basically cleaned house on anyone who was going to be a free agent expiring contract, started the rebuild. But, Mike Rizzo really looks at the day he traded Soto and got all those players back, including Luke Voigt. I think Luke Voigt's playing in Mexico now. The other guys in the trade were all organization changers. And, they've all reached the big leagues except for Harlan Susana, who right now is a grade 1 UCL sprain, was in high A ball. But, Hassel was the highly touted player in the deal at the time as a prospect. Of course, Gore and Abrams were coming right to the big leagues, giving you hopefully, an ace left-hander and a starting shortstop who was very inexperienced at the time. Because, with the Padres, they had brought him up, so he hardly had any professional time in the minor leagues, very, very young. And so he's been learning at the big league level and getting better and better. And Gore's looking like he's the real deal. These are guys that you hope they can lock up for a long time. But I remember coming to San Diego maybe a week, 10 days after the trade. And, of course, Scott Boras, the agent for a lot of these guys, Gore, the agent for James Wood, the agent for Juan Soto, as we famously know, said to me, the only way the Nationals could really top off this trade would be to sign Soto when he becomes a free agent in 2 years. Because he said, I don't have Hassel, and I've seen him. But Hassel, as you know, was hurt a lot early in his career in the minor leagues with the wrist injuries and then the fractured hamate bone. But he said Wood is a beast. And he told us right then he thought Wood was going to be a 40-plus home run guy. And this was when he was in A-ball.
Charlie Slow's Nationals.
He's a pretty good talent evaluator.
Charlie Slow's Nationals broadcaster joining us on the Braden Surprenant show. That was the one piece of the puzzle that a lot of Padres fans knew that was going to be, or at least heard of being the biggest loss in that particular deal was, are we potentially trading a future Juan Soto for Juan Soto now for this interesting deal? And I know the Padres and Nationals will be connected for the next handful of years because of this big trade that happened at the deadline. Overall, record-wise, probably not where Washington wants to be. What is the, ultimate kind of next couple of year plan for the Washington Nationals? They got the young crew. Is this going to be a team that's going to start adding now during the offseason and building around this particular group that they got from the Padres?
Well, that's what we're all waiting to find out. Some people thought they might add this winter. Organization felt as these young guys came to the major leagues this year would give them a better idea of what they want to add, how they want to add after this season. And, that really ties into, where ownership stands, whether they're ready to do that or not. And we don't know that at this point. So I think they thought they were going to be an improved team. You just went through an 11-game losing streak, which kind of, dipped you under 500 considerably when you were right about at 500, 2-3 games under. So now it's an uphill climb, and that happens to any team. It happens to young teams. It happens to veteran teams. I mean, we watched the Mets and the Yankees lose 6-7 in a row. The Phillies go into a slump. The peaks and valleys of a season. But overall, you figured out that Wood is a piece, and maybe a guy you hopefully can sign long term. He's locally from Maryland. His parents are at every game. His parents are on this trip. Seeing him play in Los Angeles. Very exciting young player. They have some other young, exciting players. Again, though, you need to have that mix of experienced veterans to bring them along. and they could probably use it. Like any team, a frontline starting pitcher. They come at a high cost. I mean, we've seen even with the Dodgers, who've had endless dollars to spend. There's no guarantee those guys stay healthy. And right now they have 13 pitchers, and they have a complete pitching staff of starters and closers that any team would want to have if they were healthy on the injured list. So it's going to be real interesting to see how they go forward. I think position player-wise, they're in a pretty good place. They just brought up Brady House in the last week, another highly touted infield prospect, was their top prospect now in their farm system, and he's going to get reps now the rest of the year at third base. So the rest of this year is going to tell a lot.
Well, Charlie, we really appreciate the time coming on. I'd like to learn a lot about the broadcasting world. I know a lot of our fans, we got a lot of young people that listen to the show that want to get into broadcast and journalism and everything like that. So we appreciate that.
Hey,
thanks again for the report on the Nationals as well.
You wouldn't know this, but before I went to D.C. again, because I had done pro basketball for 11 years and then went to Tampa Bay for 7. And then before I came back to D.C. to do the Nationals, the year or two before that, I interviewed with the Padres. So could have gone a different way.
Could have. You never know. I mean, that's what's kind of crazy about life. And best advice I ever got is, you're going to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. So that worked out for you, obviously. And again, we appreciate the time and enjoy your 3 days here in San Diego.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Charlie Slows, Nationals broadcaster, giving us the time to talk today about the Washington Nationals, get you a little bit of a preview. That was fun. The interviews that we get that Frank Marchese puts together with a lot of broadcasters are always fun conversations, and you could tell they like talking about their craft a little bit, and they don't get to do that all the time. And I hope you guys had some fun with that. Frank, another good job on the get. We really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much.
So
keep trying our best.
It was good. We've had some really good broadcasters on this show, and I geek out. Frank does too. Frank's got a broadcaster background as well, so it's fun for us, and hopefully you guys have fun with this as well. So, without further, do we have time? Do you want to do it at noon?
No, I think noon should probably be the better get.
Do you have the Washington Nationals San Diego State Aztecs news in the sports thread?
I do not, because that just broke maybe a half hour ago.
All right, let's talk about that. Just happening moments ago, as I pull up the tweet, San Diego State Baseball tweeted this out. Congratulations to Aztec for Life Steven Strasburg, who is among the featured headliners in the 2025 College Baseball Hall of Fame class. Steven Strasburg, who started his career at West Hills High School in Santee, went on to play for Tony Gwynn at San Diego State, was a first-round draft pick of the Washington Nationals, had a great career with the Nationals, helped them win a World Series in 2019, and then went on, obviously, to a little bit of injuries, but is now back here in San Diego. He was coaching at Santa Fe Christian this year as a help, and I know he was part of the process of the new coaching hire at San Diego State for San Diego State baseball, but well-deserved, and a big congratulations to Steven Strasburg being inducted into the College Baseball Hall of Fame. We had the College Baseball World Series over the weekend. LSU took down Coastal Carolina over the weekend, and I don't know if we had time for this right now, and maybe I'll get into it, but the ejection of the Coastal Carolina manager after 10 pitches in the first inning was utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. And I've seen both sides of this argument. But if you look at the situation that was at hand, 10 pitches in, bottom of the first inning, Coastal Carolina's got a runner on first and 2 outs. And they swipe second base. And in the process of the Coastal Carolina player swiping second base, and they're talking about, and then the broadcast is talking about other things and everything like that, all of a sudden, there's a kerfuffle behind the plate, and the head coach of Coastal Carolina goes out to talk to the umpires, and he finds out he's been ejected from the game for arguing balls and strikes. And he says, you missed 3 pitches. Jeff Passan even went out there on social media to essentially blow up this entire situation. Quote from Jeff Passan, there are very few combinations of words in the English language that warrant ejecting a coach from an elimination game in the Men's College World Series Finals, and yet Coastal Carolina's Kevin Schnall, the first base coach Matt Schilling, just got run in the first inning. He then posts a clip of them getting run. Quote, you missed 3 pitches. Does not qualify as one of those combinations. If this is all it took for Kevin Schnall to get ejected, that is absurd. I think it's absurd too, regardless if he's doing well or not. Umpires, I think, need to have a little bit thicker skin. I don't know if he said something personal. I don't know if he dropped, bad language, whatever it may be. And I saw people that were umpires defending the umpire, but you got to understand something. In an elimination game in the College World Series, arguably one of the biggest days for Kevin Schnall, you got to give the guy a little bit more leeway than you missed 3 pitches. And I don't know the context of maybe some other things that were said, but it ain't about you, big dog. It ain't about you. So the ejection was utterly ridiculous. I think it sets up Coastal Carolina for failure at the beginning of the game. Saw a lot of people putting asterisks next to LSU. LSU was still a better team. They ended up winning. But come on, man. Could you imagine? Because he would end up getting suspended for other games. He wouldn't have been able to coach the next game anyway. Could you imagine Mike Schilt in the World Series getting tossed 10 pitches into the first inning? Come on, man. It's not about you, dude. When we come back, we'll get Frank Marchese's sports thread. We'll talk a little bit more about the Pac-12 getting a deal. Braden Surprenant Show continues.
It's time to fire it up. From the beaches to the ballparks, from the Gaslamp to North County, no one knows America's finest city like he does.
You can't just punt on a Manny Machado prime use.
He's a fourth-generation San Diegan, born and raised in the heart of this community. Passionate, opinionated, and always bringing you the real talk on your teams, your city, and everything in between.
Braden totally knows his stuff. He's ready for the next step. That guy is good.
Live and local, it's the Braden Surprenant Show.
But I think Braden's one of the up-and-coming young stars in the media game in San Diego.
Now, here's your host, Braden Surprenant.
What's up, San Diego? Lunchtime hour on 97.3 The Fan and the Braden Surprenant Show. New lunch hour is brought to you by the Craft Taco. Both flavors in 2 locations, Sorrento Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. Frank, have you been there yet?
Huh?
This guy's going to be a recurring bit.
It is.
Until he goes.
Yep. And even, I have a feeling that even after I do go, you're not going to believe me because I lied last week, so.
Picks or it didn't happen. That's usually how this goes. I was up there a couple weeks ago. I was talking with Kevin, our sales guy, that was part of that deal. He's like, I need to go back up there. Yeah, you do. It's great. You do have to go back up there. Now, today, I don't know how much this week I'll be able to eat out too much. Last week was too much eating out for me. We had family in town, and you come back from vacation. It's like you're trying to ease back into your routine. We talked about routines in the first hour, about the difference of a routine of being a starting player in Major League Baseball compared to being in the routine of a bench guy, something that Jose Iglesias is dealing with right now. But I did the meal prep yesterday. So we got some ribeye. We got some chicken breast. Planned out. I got the 10 meals done. I got it all worked out where did it all day yesterday. Where I got my calories set to hit, my protein, my fats, all that stuff. We're locked in. Some ribeye and some chicken breast mixed with, I was telling Frank, it's on my social media if you want to check it out, at @B_SURP, at BSurp. Take a look at my Instagram story. I put the recipe on there that I basically just threw together. I wanted to have, these little meals like a little protein pasta on the sides, better for me. Not a big fan of rice, which would probably be cleaner. But I get the protein pasta. I needed to mix it with something. And it needed to be, again, I use the Parmesan Reggiano. I mean, that's stuff that's a lot better for you. I mean, if you had like 30 grams of Parmesan Reggiano, it's like having a protein bar. It's great. So about 140 grams of that. I made this sauce. It was Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, Parmesan cheese, Romano cheese, which is good. They have good macros. Mix that up with some seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic powder, a little ground sage, basil, and oregano. It's pretty good. So that will be my lunch today when I get home. And then I'll either have the steak for dinners and chicken for lunch or vice versa. Get my protein up. Big hack on protein is the Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is such a hack. You can literally make anything that you like that's creamy, do it with Greek yogurt. There's no fat, and you get like 18 grams of protein per 2/3 cup. It's phenomenal. So if you want to check that out, it's on my social media page, at @B_SURP. On Instagram, you can follow me at BSurp. Anywhere on social media, you can follow the show at B_SURP show. And you can also follow Frank Marchese, who will now lead us in today's sports thread.
Always blowing up with the biggest sports takes, debates, and breaking news.
You got barbecue back there, and you didn't invite me?
Yeah, we've got that too. Welcome to the Sports Thread, where we break down the top 5 stories in sports, just like you would with your crew.
Oh, no! Disaster! What a bad idea!
No filters, no silence, just real talk.
All right, Frank. What do we got today that's not Padres related?
Well, first of all, we're gonna turn the music down here for this first one.
Number one.
MC Alger won their second straight league championship, and the Algerian League won yesterday. But it's not what people are focusing on. We know soccer celebrations can go a little hard, and this one was no different. At the time of writing this, which was yesterday afternoon, 3 spectators were killed and 70 injured after falling from the upper stands of the stadium. Important to note that this was not a riot. As far as we know, this was just a very unfortunate accident from a group of fans who got a little bit too rowdy. And Braden, this is a solemn reminder for fans who sit near the rail in the middle of the upper deck, especially. Just pay attention to your surroundings at all times.
Yeah, those and that freaks me out at ballparks all the time. Anytime a ball's thrown or a foul ball up to the upper decks with people trying to reach over, I always cringe every single time because of what could potentially happen. So, very sad story to start, and obviously thoughts and prayers of them and their families after just trying to go to a game and unfortunately it doesn't end the way that you would want it to end. So that's some pretty tough news.
Yep, absolutely.
Number two.
Moving back to a little bit less depressing news. We mentioned last week that that NBA All-Star Kevin Durant was looking for a way out of Phoenix and was looking for a new home. Durant named the Houston Rockets as one of his teams of desire, and that is where he is headed. Durant was traded over the weekend to Houston for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, this year's number 10 overall pick, and 5 future second-round picks. Braden, are the Houston Rockets in a better place after this trade than they were before it?
Well, they had KD. When you have KD, it's not a problem usually. So don't mind the trade there. Suns decided to send him off, and now you got a new big face in Houston, closer to where he went to college. So there you go.
And this is what, the 5th or 6th team that Kevin Durant's been on?
KD just keeps getting moved around until he wins a championship again.
Well,
These guys move around a lot in the NBA.
And it's unfortunate to see because he's a star player. He's a keynote player, and he's never in a city for more than a couple of years, which is upsetting.
Number three.
Seattle Mariners catcher Cal Raleigh is having a career year to start off the 2025 season. And over the weekend, he added a little historic flair. Raleigh hit 4 home runs during Seattle's series in Wrigley Field over the weekend, giving him 31 home runs on the season, passing Johnny Bench for most home runs hit by a catcher before the All-Star break. Raleigh also has 66 RBIs before the end of June. If Raleigh can keep up this pace, could he possibly have a word to say about Aaron Judge unanimously getting the MVP?
I think so. And every time I watch him play, I mean, he's like a human highlight reel right now. But every time he's on with highlights of just another home run for Cal Raleigh or a stolen base for Cal Raleigh and everything that he has done, my initial reaction is like, well, too bad he's in the American League where he has to deal with Aaron Judge. Right? And the same thing is said for anybody in the National League now that Ohtani's pitching again. It's like, well, too bad he's in the National League because of Shohei Ohtani. I think he 100% deserves some recognition for an MVP. I think he can give Aaron Judge a run for their money. I don't want to see the same guy win all the time. I mean, if guys have really good years, even, better, if they have years that are betterment of their team or do better than it's hard to explain, but not even though Aaron Judge is better than everybody else, sometimes it's like a down year for Aaron Judge. If it's not Aaron Judge's best year, maybe you go with a guy like Cal Raleigh instead of just giving Aaron Judge the trophy every single year. I think Cal Raleigh's giving him a run for their money.
Yeah, he's been absolutely fantastic. And I gave you a stat during a break or two ago that Cal Raleigh has hit 9 home runs and has had multiple stolen bases, 3 consecutive calendar months. No other catcher in the history of the league has done that over 3 calendar months period throughout their entire career. So he is on a historic heater right now. Kid is white hot.
Number 4.
The Stanley Cup Finals were very entertaining this year as we saw the Florida Panthers beat the Edmonton Oilers for the second year in a row. Fans enjoyed the series. However, the ratings do not reflect that. The Stanley Cup Finals this year averaged 2.5 million viewers in the United States and 2.6 million in Canada. Those numbers were up from the finals 2 years ago, but were way down from the Four Nations tournament earlier this year. Four Nations tournament drew 9.3 million viewers on average in the U.S. and 10.7 million on average in Canada. Is the NHL doing enough to promote the Stanley Cup Finals, or was this just a result of the uniqueness of the Four Nations tournament?
I mean, I didn't really watch the Stanley Cup Finals. Wasn't like super interested in it. I want to get into hockey more. I follow the Anaheim Ducks, who's traded Trevor Zegras.
Yeah, so that made that harder.
That's sick. Nice. Just when you thought that they're finally going to pull it around, like they had back in the day. But, to me, I just think like you got to try to grow the game more in the United States. I mean, it's obviously very popular in the middle of, in the Midwest, and it's popular in the Northeast, and it's popular where it snows. It's not necessarily popular everywhere else in the United States, and a lot of your teams are in Canada. But when you have the frozen face-off, or whatever it was,
the Four Nations
face-off, people were watching for the Americans were watching. They had a team, like they had skin in the game. There's a lot of people in the United States that don't have skin in the game in hockey. Think about some of their markets. I mean, a lot of their markets are not necessarily big markets. Yes, they do have the biggest markets, just like everybody else, like Chicago, like New York, like Los Angeles. But they got a lot of smaller markets too. They got Anaheim. They got Columbus, right? They got the smaller markets in Canada. So to me, it's like, unless you have a team in the NHL, why are you watching the Stanley Cup Finals when it's the middle of baseball season? Like, how many people do you think watched the Stanley Cup Finals in San Diego that weren't sports sickos?
Yeah.
Probably not a lot. In fact, my buddies went to a bar in North Park to watch the Padre game, and it was a Stanley Cup watch party, and they're like, what is this? Why is this on? It was like game 6. Why are we watching this? Right? And I was like, it's the Stanley Cup Finals. And my friends were like, so? The Padres are on, right? So you have to be able to build the fan base a little bit and get people behind the sport throughout the country. And that's something that hockey, I don't think really does. I think it's catered more to obviously Canada and the areas that have snow and everything like that, where they play the sport. But I think it's a difficult task. I'm not overly surprised that the Four Nations face-off drew more, because you have Americans like, oh, look, Team USA. Like, I'll watch. Like, this is kind of cool. But if you don't have any skin in the game, it's hard to get the casuals to watch.
By the way, if you're a New York Islanders fan, the Naughty Barrel does Islander watch parties all
downtown
season long.
Or PQ?
Downtown.
Or both? Just the downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5.
That sounds like personal experience right there.
Well, yeah. The Wisconsin Badgers are entering an arena. College athletics has never. Okay, you can stop that.
Have you ever seen that video?
Yes, I have.
Badger. All right, continue.
Wisconsin Badgers are entering an arena college athletics has never stepped into before. Badgers are suing the Miami Hurricanes for tampering. The player in question hasn't officially been named, but the complaint lines up with the transfer of freshman defensive back Xavier Lucas. Wisconsin refused to allow Lucas to enter the transfer portal. Lucas then left Wisconsin and enrolled at Miami. The suit claims that Miami went to Lucas's home in Florida and offered him money to transfer, despite Lucas having signed a 2-year contract with Wisconsin this December. This might be the first time college football has had to deal with this, but it certainly won't be the last, will it?
No, well, are they suing for like a buyout?
I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe that they are suing.
They're either suing so the kid has to pay the money back, or they're suing on a buyout because they are a breach of contract, I would imagine.
I believe it's breach of contract was more or less what it was.
Try to get money back from Miami. I'm totally on board with this. In fact, I think if you enter the transfer portal, we're gonna be big boys now and girls and be professionals. If you sign a deal like a contract, like there's no way out of these contracts in professional sports. If you want to enter the transfer portal, you got to get someone to buy you out. Buy out the contract, almost like a trade. I'm in the transfer portal. All right, you signed a 2-year deal worth X amount of dollars. The school that adds you needs to pay us the money we're paying you. Because right now, they just walk away, and the school gets nothing in return. Everybody's a walk-away free agent. There's no compensation for draft picks. Think about all the rules that are in place in professional sports in which they pay players to play. They have these rules, so you can't just lose a kid or lose a player at the end of the season with everybody on a 1-year deal. So if you sign somebody to a 2-year contract to play football at Wisconsin, if that kid decides to go into the transfer portal, I think whatever the amount of money that contract is worth should be paid to Wisconsin by the school that is going to sign that kid up to play for them. I don't think that's not fair. That seems pretty fair to me.
There's a couple things here. The contract between Wisconsin and their athletes gives the school the non-exclusive rights to use the players' NIL in promotion. Part of the deal, according to the lawsuit, prohibits an athlete from making any commitments to enroll or play sports at other schools. The lawsuit says Wisconsin had a reasonable expectation that Lucas would, quote, continue to participate as a member of its football program until the deal ended. However, several contracts between Big Ten schools and their players that ESPN had previously reviewed, these details explicitly state that the athletes are not paid to play football for the university. Since the school is technically paying out only to use the players' NIL rights, it is not clear if the judge will consider it fair to enforce the part of the contract that dictates where the player attends school.
There's a slippery slope again. Are they employees or are they not? We are paying them to play football. We're not paying them to endorse a product.
It's funny how the student part of student athlete that the NCAA used to beat into our heads about 5-10 years ago when this was all starting is completely disappeared now. Like they don't even try to mask the whole student athlete thing anymore.
Yeah, they don't care. If you do not want to get an education and get paid to play football, you shouldn't have to get an education. In my opinion, if you want it, go get it. I think there's a lot of value in that. But if you don't want to use that card, you shouldn't have to. These guys are getting paid to play sports now. They're not getting paid for their name, image, and likeness. You can tell by the contracts. If I'm giving a guy $2 to $4 million to endorse my Chevy dealership, I am overpaying a ton. You know what's not going to convince me to buy a brand new Chevy truck? An 18-year-old. No way. That throws a football well. It's not a good business decision.
Nope.
They're just giving the money for the kids to play football. And here's your other thing. Again, Wisconsin's a public school. So now these kids are employees of the state of Wisconsin, and they're getting paid way more than any real employee of the state of Wisconsin. It opens up another can of worms. Violated the contract. There are consequences to violating contracts. I don't know why this is so confusing for people.
It's so much fun to see the trouble that college football is getting themselves into, or college sports
for
in
everybody
general.
Involved. For all the players, for all the coaches, for all the powers that be. It's like you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You want to be a pro, dude. This is being a pro.
All of this
is being a pro.
All of this to get college football video games back.
All they had to do is
to
just say, like, yeah,
back.
okay, we could do this. Here's the $50 they were going to pay the kid at the time. Hey, we can't pay this kid we can't give him a burger. But now we're just going to make everything even worse. Now it went from 0 to 1,000 overnight. Yeah, you signed a contract. When you sign a contract, you abide by the contract until the contract is up. If you breach said contract, there are consequences to breaching said contract. Utterly ridiculous. Where's the house settlement? Do they have rules on the transfers? You should be allowed one transfer. But if you sign a 2 or 3 year deal, you're stuck there. Just like any free agent that signs a multiple year contract. Add trades. I think it'd be great to have trades in college football.
And again, this is
great.
This is where, again, if you're going to transfer, they should bring back the year you lose the year of eligibility when you transfer.
You have to make it a situation.
You have to give them incentive to not transfer.
Right. You need to deter people from transferring. You get the one. I think you should get one because sometimes things don't work out. But in that transfer, there needs to be compensation to the school that loses the player, whatever he is making. The new school's got to pay it, or you got to have sit-out periods. But if you're not going to do it based on sit-out periods because they're like paid employees, there needs to be monetary decisions as part of this. Wisconsin should be getting paid for the kid that left, and they should be getting paid by Miami. And if those are not the rules, those need to be the rules. If you want to be a pro, this is being a pro, which means when you sign a contract, you don't just get to decide, I'm just going to go somewhere else now because I don't like it here. If you sign a multi-year deal, that was the risk that you took. If you think you're worth more, well, you already signed the contract. This is called being a pro. This is what you kids wanted. You wanted to get paid millions of dollars to be treated like an adult. They're treating you like an adult now, and now it's not fair. Well, there's a reason why there's professional sports and college sports. They ruined the college sports because they wanted to be pros because they weren't good enough to be pros, but they still want to get paid as if they were good enough to be pros. They made their bed. Players, organizations, schools, administrators, people in charge, TV people, they made their bed. Now they got to sleep in it. Student athlete. Come on. We'll talk about the Pac-12 a little bit later. When we come back, we'll transition back to baseball for a brief moment. Can the Padres make a Luis Robert trade work? Jim Bowden says they can. Is it smart? Maybe. The risk? Very high. The reward? Could be even higher. We'll talk about it when we come back. The Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. super late coming in after the last discussion, but it was just, it's about the college athletic stuff is crazy. And we're going to get to the Pac-12 deal here in a second. Part of the noon lunch hour on the Fan, brought to you by the Craft Taco. Both flavors at 2 locations, Serrano Valley and inside Balboa Park's Natural History Museum. We will get to our midday sports standoff next segment as well. If you could take me down in sports trivia, you are qualified for a chance to win a grand prize. Celebrate summer with a spa and pool getaway at Resorts World Las Vegas, home of the largest elevated pool complex on the Strip. You'll receive a 2-night stay at Resorts World Las Vegas. Dine poolside at one of the 5 unique pool experiences and experience the ultimate in relaxation and wellness at Awana Spa, one of the largest co-ed spa facilities in Las Vegas. To book your summer stay, please visit rwlasvegas.com. There's an interesting topic that we had at the end of the Sports Fix with Wisconsin suing Miami for grabbing a kid in the portal that had a 2-year contract with Wisconsin. And this is what you sowed. You reap what you sow. And this is what you got. I mean, the amount of greed in college athletics is absurd. But again, it's like, we talked about it off air, but after the fact, if you're going to pay, and it's mostly just the football players, let's be honest here. Some baseball teams have bigger budgets that are getting paid, basketball, obviously, but aside from football, men's basketball, women's basketball, and baseball, there's a lot of kids and students that are student athletes at colleges. A field hockey team anywhere. Right? Those girls are not there for NIL. They're there to get an education via sport, right? And there's a lot of those teams out there. I think you see the Ivy Leagues are all non-NIL. The military academies are all non-NIL. It's mostly football's the biggest problem, right? Out of all the sports in college athletics, the one that gets the most eyeballs is football. And so I look at some of these, like how much money they're getting, which is absurd. It's absurd amounts of money for playing a college sport. They already had a great deal. The deal that they had was great. They get to fly charter jets. They get to stay in nice hotels. They get great nutrition. They get everything paid for. Housing, food, school. A free education is so valuable. So valuable. People don't even understand how valuable that is. And you can say what you want politically about colleges. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that colleges teach you that are not just like BS. They teach you how to critically think. They teach you how to solve problems. They teach you how to communicate. There's a lot of things that are applied. And the main thing about school is school teaches you to show up on time and get work done on a timely manner. That's it. That's basically what school is for. And so when you get when you go apply for a job and it says you have a college education, the person hiring can sit there and go they had to, in order to get this, they had to show up on time, they had to pay attention, they had to do their work, and they had to turn it in a timely manner. That's basically what school is for. So you get that for free, where everybody else is paying like hundreds of thousands of dollars for that piece of paper. You get housing for free. You get food for free. You get to work out in the nicest facilities whenever you want for free. Everything is designed for the student athlete. And in return, right, you get a good football team, right? The schools get a good football team. The argument that the players lead for everything for television is ridiculous. There's a couple of players. There's probably a handful of players every year that people view as must-watch TV that are driving TV ratings. Those players are going to the NFL anyway. But other than that, most college football fans are college football fans because they recognize and they affiliate themselves with the logo on the helmet. They either went there, or they grew up there, or they have some type of sentimental opinion or value of the logo on the side of the helmet. I've used this analogy multiple times. My mom went to the University of Arizona. She loves the Arizona Wildcats. She couldn't name you a single player. She is not watching for the players. She's watching for the A because she has an affiliation with the A. I do the same thing with TCU. I want us to have as best players as possible because I'd like my team to win. and my school to be very successful. I think it brings a lot of great things for the school. But at the same time, I honestly wouldn't notice that much of a difference between Frank Marchese and Braden Surprenant playing and some of the athletes that are out there playing. Obviously, you notice the difference in skill level. They're way better. But at the same time, I'm watching TCU because of TCU. I'm not watching because they have XYZ players. I learn the players as the season goes on. So the whole aspect, and this is something that came up with the House settlement, it's like, if I'm going to pay this particular player directly from the university hundreds of thousands of dollars or a couple $1 million in order to get a quarterback, why am I also going to give him free education and free room and board and free this and free that just for that person to leave at the end of the year for a bigger deal? It doesn't make any sense. A business standpoint wise, it doesn't make any sense. So if you're going to make it professional, make it professional. Again, if you're paying them to play football, which is exactly what they're doing, then there needs to be rules in place on how to properly even the playing field when it comes to signing athletes to play for the schools and having multiple year deals and having buyouts for transfers. I mean, look at what is going on in college athletics. They're not going for school, at least. And I'm talking about the big sports, right? I'm not talking about the women's volleyball team at San Diego State or USD, right? I mean, they're not getting paid. If they are, good for them. If they get a couple extra $100, a couple $1,000 in their back pocket like they would be if they're working a job, sounds good. But the hundreds of thousands of dollars and the millions of dollars and the splitting of it's ruining the sport. And it gets to a point where it becomes like, why am I donating the money to pay for these student athletes when they're making way more than I am anyway? Even Charles Barkley said it. They asked Charles Barkley, why aren't you writing a check to Auburn to try to get some of the best players for Auburn basketball? He said, I'm not writing a check for anybody that's going to leave at the end of the year. It makes sense. So to me, there's no in between of the benefit. You don't get the benefits of being a student athlete and the benefits of being a professional athlete. It's one or the other. You're either a professional sport or you're an amateur sport. And this kind of in between right now is not going to last, and they're going to fix this eventually. Because people are going to be turned off by it. The only reason why it's gotten to this level and why these schools are making so much money is because it became a very popular sport. But it became a popular sport for a couple of reasons. And one of them is not a brand new roster every single year for every team in college football. TV money obviously pumped a lot of juice into college athletics. There's a TV deal done for the Pac-12. Hey, look, it's finally here. We'll talk about it when we come back. Plus, need a contestant for the Midday Sports Standoff, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you call in and take me down to trivia, you'll be entered for a chance to win a trip to Vegas. We'll do that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan. 12:41. Can't believe the show's almost over. We got an hour and 15 minutes left. First day of the week. Padres Nationals coming up at 6:40. Eco Water SoCal Padres pregame show with Sam Levitt live from the loft at 5:40. Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby will be on at 2 o'clock as they will continue Padres coverage and baseball coverage on 97.3 The Fan. We're taking a little bit of break from Padres coverage. When we come back at 1 o'clock, we'll get your preview of the Padres and Nationals. We'll talk a little bit about Jackson Merrill, James Wood, and we'll dive deeper into some Padres topics. Xander Bogaerts, 11 for 19 in his last 19. Playing well. There's a long article today about Xander Bogaerts in The Athletic by Dennis Lin. We'll talk about that tomorrow, as well as the National League West and what we learned over the past week, where you saw 17 games between National League West foes. That will be on tomorrow's show, obviously, with also recapping the series against Washington. So we'll talk more Padres baseball in the 1 o'clock hour. We do want to put your way. And again, on this show, we cover all the sports that happen in San Diego in some capacity, right? We did Soccer 101 with Drake every single Friday. We will be here for Aztec football, Aztec basketball. We'll talk San Diego State. We'll talk USD and UCSD when, they're doing some good things. We'll keep you updated on stuff going on in the high school realm with high school football and everything like that. I mean, we're going to talk San Diego sports, and we're going to talk about sports that happen. It's a sports show mixed with some fun. I mean, I will be talking about how I got attacked by an athletic band today. Talk about that later in the show. Got a little bit into the lunchtime stuff with some of the meal prep. Maybe we'll dive into that in the 1 o'clock hour too. But in part of this, I mean, a big thing for all Aztec fans out there is they just joined the Pac-12, right? So this is the last year of the Mountain West, Frank, if I'm correct. They will start in 2026.
This is the last year San Diego State is in the Mountain West, yes.
So in moving to the Pac-12, the decision-making was, again, they missed the boat on potentially going somewhere else, and I don't know how much of a deal was offered to San Diego State when it comes to the Big 12, but there was some interest there, and San Diego State decided to stick with the Pac-12 because they thought everything was going to be fine, which it wasn't. So half the teams leave and go to the Big 12 and the Big 10, and they were left with two schools, Washington State, Oregon State, who then poached some Mountain West schools after they said, we would never do that. Fingers crossed. Gotcha. So they grabbed Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State to go with Oregon State and Washington State, all the states. They had a Gonzaga for basketball, and they're still waiting on one other team, but they have a TV deal done now with CBS. All right. San Diego State fans, or should I say Pac-12 fans that might be delusional, still think they have a power status. I don't know what out of the group of teams schools I mentioned, thinks it's on the same level as the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the SEC. But I digress on that. The biggest thing was the TV contract. And the decision-making was, well, we're better off in the Pac-12 than we would be in the Mountain West because of TV money and everything else. I think there's some to that, but you got to break down the TV contract in order for it to make any type of monetary sense. CBS Sports and the Pac-12 Conference today announced an extension of their partnership, which is set to begin with the 2025 football season. The extended partnership will continue with the league's transformation and begin with new Pac-12's launch ahead of the 2026-2027 season and carry through the 2030-2031 season. The new agreement establishes CBS Sports as the primary long-term partner of the new Pac-12, with additional partners to be announced at a later date. As part of the extended partnership, football and men's basketball games for the new Pac-12 will air throughout each season on CBS Television Network and streaming on Paramount Plus, as well as CBS Sports Network. Octagon, the Pac-12's exclusive media rights advisor, served as advisor for both the 2025 partnership and the subsequent long-term extension. Here's what you got in the new deal. They didn't mention anything about money, by the way. They didn't mention anything about money. If it was a big contract with money, you'd be hearing about it, but it's not. They didn't say anything about how much money that the schools are going to get. Every other deal that we have seen over the last 2 or 3 years from all the other conferences immediately put how much money they're receiving. This particular deal, it was not disclosed with anybody. Here's what you get with the new Pac-12 CBS partnership highlights. Annual football championship game on CBS and stream live on Paramount Plus. Is that an upgrade from what it is for the Mountain West? Slightly, but I'm pretty sure that the Mountain West was already on CBS. I know basketball was. So you got the football championship on CBS instead of what? CBS Sports? What an upgrade. Annual men's basketball tournament championship on CBS and Paramount Plus. They already had that in the Mountain West. A minimum of 3 regular season football games on CBS and Paramount Plus each season. Already had that with the Mountain West. Instead, it's now with the Pac-12. And guess what? What games do you think are going to be on CBS in a football season? It's going to be Boise State, Oregon State. It's going to be Boise State, Washington State. It's going to be Oregon State, Washington State. Or it might be the Apple Cup, Washington State and Washington. It might even be Oregon and Oregon State. Your chances of being on big CBS, San Diego State, probably very slim when it comes to football. A minimum of 3 regular season men's basketball games on CBS. San Diego State Aztec basketball already gets that with the Mountain West. Football men's basketball games throughout the regular season on CBS Sports Network. Already have that with the Mountain West, with details to be announced later at a later date. What about this is better than what you already had? What about it is better? The only thing that's really sticking out right now in terms of what is better is you've eliminated having to play Wyoming and Hawaii and teams that nobody wants to see. Instead, you get to play Utah State, you get to play Oregon State, Washington State, Fresno State, Colorado State, Boise State, which is 4 of the teams that you already play, plus the 2 teams that were left behind in the Pac-12, Washington State and Oregon State. The Pac-12 wants to brag about how like their new Pac-12 is the top 5 league in this and top 5 league in that. It's not. Gonzaga's going to be really good at basketball. They're going to take all this money and they're going to pump it into basketball and outspend everybody else in basketball because they don't have football. And by the way, you still need another football team. Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Oregon State, Utah State, Washington State, all the state schools, plus 1 more football school. And right now, it sounds like it's going to be Texas State. What kind of draw is that? I can't. The whole difference about this deal was getting more money in a TV contract. They didn't even disclose the amount of money. And yes, there's more than just one deal. It's not just CBS, but we're talking about the CW. I know ESPN picked up some of the games. You're going to have terrible time slots, and you're going to be getting paid not much more than what you were going to get paid in the Mountain West. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if the Mountain West added some schools from the Big Sky and made them D1 schools if they got the same deal that the Pac-12 got. Those schools I mentioned, how are any of those on the same level as schools in the Big 12, schools in the ACC, schools in the SEC, or schools in the Big 10? They're not. They're not even close. So to say they're a power conference is utterly absurd. To say that they are right there with everybody else is absurd. And until they get their final team, there's really no guarantee that they're going to get a bid into the college football playoff. I mean, they're going to be part of the group of 5, which is going to be group of 6 in reality. I don't know how this is. This is just not great. It's just not great. Very quickly, let's get to the midday sports standoff.
Welcome to Midday Sports Standoff on the Braden Surprenant Show.
I can't believe what I'm seeing right now.
The ultimate head-to-head battle where sports knowledge and quick thinking collide.
No, it's no good. Are you kidding me?
Contestants will go toe-to-toe with Braden in a sports trivia deal where every correct answer brings them closer to victory.
Down the sideline! Wow! Unbelievable!
But 3 strikes and it's game over.
This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Can you outsmart Braden? The midday sports standoff starts now.
All right, Frank, who we got playing today?
Well, this is only going to help me out because we have Brandon in El Cajon. So Brandon will be playing Braden today. God help me. Brandon, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good, Frank and Braden. How are you?
Doing
Good,
well.
good. All right, really quick. There have been 5 teams in college baseball that have won more than one College World Series championship since 2000. I want you to name all 5. So, Brandon, you are going to get the first guess here.
LSU.
LSU just won it yesterday. They've also won several times before.
Oregon State, the Beavers.
Oregon State, that's 2. So you each have 1. Brandon.
Florida.
Florida has not won multiple College World Series championships since 2000.
The Vandy Boys, Vanderbilt.
Vandy is 1. 2-1, Braden. Brandon, go ahead.
How about for Braden's sake, I'll say Tennessee.
Not Tennessee.
They just finally won. They hadn't been there in a long time. I'm going to go with the South Carolina Gamecocks. They went back-to-back years.
Yep, and that will clinch the win for Braden.
Last one?
Yep, last one. Go ahead. Take a guess, Brandon.
Since it doesn't matter, can I have the conference?
SEC.
Used to be in the Big 12. They did it in the Big 12.
Yes, they did it in the Big 12.
Texas.
Texas.
Yep, that is it.
Horns
so
down.
3-2. Braden takes the win here to open up the week. Way to spoil the party.
We've discovered that the college topics are usually up my alley. Nobody's a bigger college athletics fan at this station than me. I think Frank might be a close second. If you had to rank college athletic fandom at the fan.
No, it would definitely be you, number 1.
Oh, yeah, it's not close. That's even competing against 2 college athletes. 3. There's 3 college athletes here. People are like, well, golf. Ben does not give himself enough credit. I don't care if it was at Pomona, Pittsner, or whatever. He played college athletics. He played college golf. He was a college athlete.
There you go. No, exactly.
He doesn't give himself enough credit for that.
No.
He was playing golf at a collegiate level. I don't care how bad maybe some of the teams that he played against were in. I don't know why he self-deprecating on that. Being a college athlete's being a college athlete.
Absolutely. 100%.
He's one. Tony Jr. is obviously the other. Chris Ello. Aztec baseball players.
There you go.
Out of everybody, though, I'm probably the biggest college fan.
I was a college athletics broadcast person. So does that count?
I mean, if that's the case, then me
No.
doing video
Okay,
for
never
TCU
mind.
football probably counts. Adam Klug's a big college football fan, but
Yes.
he's not into college basketball. Padres Nationals preview and Padres topics when we come back. Padres. Back live with the Braden Surprenant Show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. This hour on 97.3 The Fan is brought to you by Amazon. Okay, I've got some good news and I've got some great news. Good news is that Prime Day is almost here. The great news, this year, you'll have 4 days to find deals on all of your favorite things. Shop Prime Day, July 8th through the 11th. Just past the 4th of July. Got a interesting week this week. Next week will be even more interesting. We'll keep you updated on that when it becomes final. Short show on Wednesday due to Padres baseball. And then the Padres will have their first off day in a long time. With an off day Thursday, we should have the roundtable back on Thursday. And then Padres and Reds coming up on Friday. So we only have the short show on Wednesday. The next week will be a little bit different, moving some parts around. And then after that, we should be back into our regularly scheduled programming. Next week is the 4th of July, which should be fun. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. We want to talk about the Padres a little bit more here and some of the things that we saw over the weekends. We'll talk a little bit about their series with the Nationals coming up at the end of the hour. Mixed in, we got Frank's NASCAR segment. He's dialed in on the NASCAR. And it's funny, like I got asked a lot of questions about NASCAR coming to San Diego from a local writer and some things that I had said about what I think about the NASCAR event. So it'll be fun. I'm going to ask Frank the same questions that I was asked. I haven't told him that yet. So he's going to be ready to go when we come back. He's got other stuff he's got to get done right now. As the case all the time, always working back there. I thought the interview with Charlie today was great. Charlie Slows, Nationals broadcaster. It was fun to learn a lot about him and the Washington Nationals. But again, we'll get you a preview to finish up the first hour. Recapping some stuff that we talked about in the first hour. Sorry, we'll do that in the end of this hour. Padres won the series against the Royals over the weekend, took 2 out of 3. Pivetta was not very good, but was serviceable. Padres ended up getting him off the hook, but then Jason Adam gave it up in the late innings, in which the Padres lost game 1, 6-5. Saturday, a lot better. They got the 3-run homer out of Fernando Tatis Jr. to kind of put the game away. Padres won 5-1 over Kansas City. And then yesterday was the Jose Iglesias game for the San Diego Padres. Iglesias was great. He did most of it. He came off the bench. We talked a little bit about what the difference is from being an everyday starter, which he was in his 14-year career, to being now a bench piece and a guy off the bench. And that takes some adjustment. We talked about routines and the routine of being a starter compared to the routine of being a pinch hitter, defensive replacement, spot starter, not knowing when you're going to start, everything like that. Talked about the batting order. I like the new batting order, and I'm hoping it's the same one today as it was yesterday, because we've been talking about it. We have been talking about it for a while now on this show. For the last couple of months, that is the exact lineup that we have put out multiple times. Fernando batting leadoff, Jackson Merrill batting second, Manny Machado batting third, Luis Arraez batting fourth. Your top 4 guys in the order. I prefer that. 5, 6, 7. Any type of mix of Sheets, Bogarts, and Cronenworth, even though that order will probably suffice. 8 and 9, left field and catcher. Who do the Padres have in left field? You start thinking about the way that order is, that batting lineup is for the San Diego Padres, and you start thinking about if you add just an average bat, how much more that lengthens that lineup. Start plugging and placing some of the players that have been rumored to go to the San Diego Padres, or what the potential fits are. We saw it with Jarren Duran about a month ago. I think it's going to cost you a lot more to go get a guy like Jarren Duran because he's got multiple years of control. I don't know if Rafael Devers being traded to the Giants has impacted whether or not the Red Sox will keep Duran or not. I do not know if that is the case. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But I think Duran might be too expensive. I think you could get multiple bats for not a hefty price if you go a different direction, if you go for a Luis Robert Jr. His name seems to be popping up a lot for the San Diego Padres. And why not? He is a center fielder for the White Sox. He's 27 years old. He's got a couple of club options after this year, which you don't have to take if you don't think he can live up to $20 million a year. He's a right-handed hitter, which is what the Padres kind of need. More so than a left-handed hitter. If I were to go and try to acquire Luis Robert Jr., it's not going to cost as much as Duran, but it will cost more than maybe going in. It's definitely going to cost more than like a Taylor Ward. This year, Luis Robert Jr. has been awful. He's got a 0 B-WAR. He's batting a .185. He's got 7 home runs. He does have 22 stolen bases. But you're taking a risk in acquiring Luis Robert Jr. So if you decide to add a bat, and I know the Padres have been linked to him before, but if you decide to go get a bat, and it is Luis Robert Jr., you are taking a risk that you can get him back to what he was when he first broke out in the league in 2021, 2022, and even in 2023 when he was an all-star and had a 5.3 WAR. Maybe a change in scenery will help out a guy like Luis Robert Jr. It's worked out for Gavin Sheets. I mean, Gavin Sheets in a White Sox uniform overall wasn't very good, to the point that the White Sox cut him. The White Sox were like, no thanks. We're moving on. Wasn't good enough for the White Sox. Now he has a chance for the Padres. When he comes up to bat, Padres fans are, holy Sheets, holy Sheets. He's done more than a serviceable job on league minimum. So maybe the change in scenery will help out the San Diego Padres and help out Luis Robert Jr. Here's what you get with Luis Robert Jr. You get a guy that's got pop. You got a guy that's a good hitter overall. He's got that potential in him. You've seen it before. And you got a guy that's quick. And not only that, he's kind of an average fielder in center field, but if he played left field with Merrill and Tatis out there, he's probably an above average left fielder. Don't have to trade as much. And I think, and a lot of people are saying it, Luis Robert Jr. in a clubhouse like the Padres, with Manny Machado, with Xander Bogaerts, with Jake Cronenworth, Fernando Tatis Jr., Joe Musgrove, the guys that they have built. And this is the importance of building a culture, right? Is you get a guy like Luis Robert Jr. who has known everything about, has only known what it's like to be in a bad situation and doesn't know what it's like to be in a good situation, would step in line and not change anything. That's the difference of building a good culture. Because before, when you would acquire players, they would be like, well, we did things like this in this organization that has won World Series, that has been very good as of late, everything like that. For Luis Robert Jr., even though the White Sox at the beginning part of his career were having success, a new lease on life for a player like this could help you out in a big way. Let's go back to the lineup again. I liked what they put out yesterday. I think they should continue with that. Let's add Luis Robert Jr. to that lineup and just see where everything's at. Again, an average player. You lead off with Fernando. You bat Jackson Merrill second. You have Manny Machado bat third and play third. Luis Arraez is your cleanup hitter as of right now, and I think that's fine. You can go Gavin Sheets 5, so you go back-to-back lefties. Luis Robert 6. Jake Cronenworth 7, Xander Bogaerts 8, catcher 9. You can even bat Xander 9th. How about this? All the Xander haters out there. He's probably the best 9 hitter in the league. You go Fernando. You go Jackson Merrill. You go Manny Machado, Luis Arise, Gavin Sheets, Luis Robert Jr., Jake Cronenworth, Elias Diaz, Xander Bogaerts. I mean, all you did was add an average baseball player right now. 0 WAR. He's got a 0 WAR. His OPS plus is, it's not having a good year. You're taking the chance. But it makes an impact. So that is the name that's circled the most. Let's talk about somebody else that you might potentially want that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks. You know, Taylor Ward's another guy. Taylor Ward's another guy that doesn't hit for a high average, but he hits the ball with the fence. He's a rental. Not going to cost you a lot from the Angels. Add Taylor Ward to the lineup. Fernando, Merrill, Machado, Arise. You could even go Taylor Ward 5th. And then Sheets bats 6th. Taylor Ward's hitting 210. He's got 19 pumps. Ward, another right-handed hitter. Huge for you. Arise, Ward, Sheets, Bogaerts, Cronenworth. And then you got Diaz or whatever like that at the end. That's a pretty good lineup too. All you did, again, was add a good, average to good Major League Baseball player in the lineup. Think about how drastically different it is. You don't need the top bat on the market. You don't need to pay for a guy like Jarren Duran and still be successful. Trade for a Taylor Ward. Trade for a Ryan O'Hearn. Trade for a Cedric Mullins. Trade for a Stowers in Miami. I mean, people are like, well, you should get Stowers and you should be able to get Sandy Alcantara. Well, the Marlins already said they're not trading him. So forget about that. You could take the risk with Stowers if you wanted to and hope that he's not just the best player on a bad team. He's under control for a decent amount of time. He's hitting for a higher average. He's got 11 home runs from San Diego. A left-handed bat. Now, you probably want a right-handed bat more than a left-handed bat, but that being said, just add him to the lineup as a left fielder. He probably bats around 5th or 6th. Maybe you bat him 7th. Think about the lineup. Again, you're looking for pop right now. I mean, that's what everybody wants, right? They don't want high averages. They want pop. They want OPS, everything like that. It's a good mix. Fernando 1, Jackson 2, Manny 3, Arise 4, Sheets 5. Got a lot of lefties now if you add Kyle Stowers. You're going to have like 4 lefties in a row. So you'd have to go like with Bogaerts or something like that. Stowers bats like 7th or 8th. Again, that lineup is already better than what you've had. Now, facing a lefty, you might have to go get a right-handed bat. I think the Padres really need a right-handed bat, in all honesty. But again, the whole point of this exercise is you don't need to add the best player in the market. You just need to add a couple of good, average to good players in Major League Baseball, and you are going to have a successful lineup. I'm personally not a huge fan of Ward because he hits a lot of home runs, doesn't hit for high average. That was like the entire argument that we had against guys like Joey Gallo. You said somebody DM me about a trade. Potential. And again, with some of these trade ideas, guys, I get like who you're going after, but you can't be throwing in players that you just don't want to have on your team anymore that aren't very good because the other teams aren't going to take them. You know, I don't know what you're going to get, like trading, like why would the Orioles accept Luis Camposano for Ryan O'Hearn? Would they do that, Frank?
If they laugh hard enough, you might be able to like squeak a yes between the gasping for breath.
It's so crazy. It's yeah, we'll do it. The other things didn't work out for us. But yes. So again, you don't need to give up too much for these position players that we named. I mean, how much is Taylor Ward going to cost? Not a lot. Ryan O'Hearn and Cedric Mullins. Cedric Mullins might cost a little bit more, but they are rentals on the Orioles for a team that's got all this young talent coming up that they're not going to re-sign these guys. There's options out there. Luis Robert Jr. be taking a major risk. I don't know if that's my number one priority. I didn't want a conversation about potentially acquiring O'Hearn and Mullins. The problem with that, though, is we said you already got enough lefties in the lineup as it is. You need you need a right-handed bat. So maybe you get Luis Robert Jr. and a Ryan O'Hearn or back and forth. But here's the other thing that we haven't talked about yet when it comes to trades. The Padres are not the only team that needs a left fielder. They're not the only team that needs a left fielder. There are other teams that need bats. In fact, the Dodgers could probably use a left fielder. Now, whether or not they make trades will remain to be seen because they have a lot of players already, but that doesn't mean that they won't go make a move. Giants are probably going to go continue to make moves at the deadline. Some of these teams think they're still in it. I mean, these are all of the equations that are going on coming up at the trade deadline. But as I mentioned before, a 2021 style deadline like the Atlanta Braves had for this year's Padres would be enough for the Padres to be able to win series in the postseason. 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. If you want to weigh in, give us a phone call. Other than that, a big event almost finalized, potentially coming to San Diego that Frank has wanted to dive into for the last couple of days. We're going to do that when we come back on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego's #1 sports station, 97 through the Fan.
Hey, it's Graben. I'm here with Mark Grau. He is also a patient at SD Fat Loss. So tell us, how much weight have you lost?
103 pounds.
How do you feel?
I feel fantastic. I used to be a diabetic. My doctor has been in the field for 18 years. He's said he's never seen anyone beat diabetes, and I've done that.
When you stepped on that scale, were you surprised at how quickly your weight went down?
Yes, when I've been struggling with weight for all my life. We tried several different programs. When I jumped on there, I'll be honest, I weighed 380 pounds when I started this program. And the first 2 weeks on this thing, I probably lost 20 pounds. That shocked me.
What was the one thing that you really enjoyed and found that you enjoyed throughout the process?
The structure, the ability that I can go.
Braden Surprenant Show, 122 on a Monday afternoon. Padres Nationals, game one of a 3-game series that it will always be highly anticipated amongst fans for the big trade that happened between the Padres and the Nationals in 2022, where the Padres acquired Juan Soto. That will be a discussion topic on air probably for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Or until all these players are just retired, and then it'll be like, I can't believe they traded this guy. Can't wait to discuss that all week. Every time James Wood, CJ Abrams get a hit. Is Gore pitching this series?
Kenzie Gore is pitching on Wednesday afternoon.
On Wednesday afternoon. Same thing if he does well. I mean, it's like, got to give things up. Spend money to make money. There's nothing you can do about it now. Watch the Nationals not sign James Wood to a contract extension. Becomes available. What a shame that would be. Anyway, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Leading up to Gwynn and Chris, coming up at 2. Tony Gwynn Jr., Chris Ello, Matt Scraby on 97 through the Fan. They will lead you into the Ecowater SoCal Padres pregame show at 5:40. First pitch at 6:40. Padres and Nationals. We'll talk more about that when we come back. But we actually have some time right now to finally diverge into and dive into what could be NASCAR coming to San Diego. Now, to recap, NASCAR is looking for a street race. Their current one in Chicago deal expires in 2026, correct?
I believe so, yes.
They have the ability to pick that up, but they are looking for more street races. They have been in conversation with San Diego about potentially having a street race in San Diego. There's been multiple articles on that as well. And they are close to finalizing a deal that would bring NASCAR to San Diego. NASCAR near deal for Cup Series street course race in San Diego area, according to sources. So I was asked for an opinion piece by a young writer. Some questions about NASCAR coming to San Diego. And the first question he asked me, and I answered these already, but I'm going to ask Frank because Frank is our motorsports expert.
Yes.
Can San Diego be able to make this a big event? Can San Diego be a successful option for NASCAR? Either a street race or any other race.
100%. As far as guys, you're going to see a lot of this. Is going to be an East County thing that you're really going to want to promote.
That's what I said.
Because I mean, I've been to Verona Speedway, and it's a lot of people coming up from East County. The question is going to be, where are you going to put it? And you know what NASCAR is going to want. They're going to want the backdrop of the city. They're going to want the backdrop of Coronado. They're going to want all of those wonderful B-roll videos that we always see of San Diego. They're going to want that for the race. So it's going to matter where you put it. You're going to have to figure out a place to put it where there's not too many hills. If you're going to put it downtown, you're going to have to put it in a place that doesn't have too many railroad crossings. And if there are going to be railroad crossings, they got to be as flat and as level as possible. You also have to make sure that it's not going to be around the same time the Padres are here. So you're going to have to do it on a Padre weekend because you will make downtown San Diego completely impassable if you try to do this on the same weekend the Padres are here.
If they get the deal in, the Padres will just ask for a request to be on the road.
Right. So it's going to have to be, but they're also going to have to know what NASCAR schedule is in order to do that. So there are challenges, there are hurdles that they are going to have to face. But yes, this is a market that NASCAR has been in for years, or has been trying to get back into ever since they turned Fontana into an Amazon warehouse. So yeah, I think it can work here for the long term.
I think it can work too. I think it can be successful. They asked me the question, how would, again, it's for casual fans, how does NASCAR get people in San Diego that do not watch NASCAR to be behind this NASCAR event? How should they do that? I answered this question already. I'll tell you what my answer is, but I want to hear your answer.
Cheap ticket prices are going to be number one. You're going to need to do like several outreach, like fan fest things to get people into it, to get people interested. Flood the media market out here, NASCAR. I will do whatever you guys want me to do to help make this as big a thing as possible out here. You're going to have to really market, and you're going to have to make it accessible to as many people as possible, which downtown is going to be a little bit hard if you plan on doing it downtown. If you do it in the East County, there's not going to be too many people that are going to go. So it depends on where you put it, how accessible you make it, the extracurricular activities surrounding the race, and just ease of access, really, and flood the media market out here to promote it.
What I said was they have to make it an event, because all the things that are successful here are events, and they're usually big, right? So you need to make it big. San Diego has always supported their major franchises to an extent, and the difference is the two NBA teams that failed, but the two NBA teams that failed were during the time in which San Diego was a small military town, which they are not anymore. So let's think about the entities that have a lot of success. The San Diego Padres being one of them. One, it's Major League. It's Major League Baseball. It's not minor league baseball. It's Major League. It is one of two, in reality, 1.5 major league products in San Diego. That's one. This is Major League. It's NASCAR. So it has to count, right? They have to make this count in the leaderboard.
100%.
Otherwise, San Diego's like, I'm not going to an exhibition. And we've seen that in the past. Number two is they have to make it a party.
Yes.
Think about all the other events that are important. Again, the Padres were filling their place before they got good, because they made it the place to be on a Friday night in the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
The Farmers Insurance Open has a very successful, because, again, they make it a party. It's not as big as the WM. It's somewhere in between relaxing golf, traditional golf, and the WM. But they make it a fun place to be. Let's think about San Diego State basketball. It's a fun place to be. The Holiday Bowl, they do a great job of making it a fun place to be. They usually do really well on ticket sales for that. Think about the entities that don't have that. San Diego State football. It is not the place to be on a Saturday night in the fall.
No.
It's just not. And they haven't made it a place to be on a Saturday night in the fall. Until they start building the hotels and the restaurants and all the business side of things in that area, it's going to be a hard sell for them to make it the place to be on a Saturday in the fall. So that was my second point. My third one is, again, with making it affordable. You can't outprice everybody.
No.
I think they're going to have built-in fans already from East County. I think they're going to have built-in fans from the Inland Empire. I think you're going to have built-in fans from everybody in California that would usually go to Fontana that doesn't exist anymore. You're going to get those. So when you think about how to make this a successful event in terms of San Diego, those are some of the things that they would have to do. I think it's going to be very fun, regardless of what it is. I'd like to go wherever it may be. People are throwing in ideas in the YouTube chat of where they can have the race. But that being said, like, there's some things that NASCAR wants to see it as, and there's also things that have to be either redone or accounted for the cars. So we had a couple people call in, Martin and Santee and Dexter in Spring Valley. They probably want to weigh in on this. We have to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get your phone calls. Greg and Del Mar, Martin and Santee, and Dexter in Spring Valley, talking Padres baseball, talking this NASCAR conversation as we finish up the show on San Diego's #1 sports station, 97.3 The Fan. that. The last question I did not ask Frank was, you could pick any Padre to do the start your engines. Who's the best pick?
Oh.
To do the whole San Diego thing.
I mean, it would have to be.
I had two in mind, and then I settled for. And then I didn't settle, but I ended up going with one.
I would say Manny. He's the most ingrained in the city as far as anyone on the team. Now, I understand Musgrove's from here, but if you're looking for a national face that people would recognize and a guy who is ingrained in San Diego, I would say Manny.
I thought about that too, because he's part owner of the San Diego FC and everything like that. What's your target audience again? East County. Joe's from East County.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit. I think it could go either way.
I wouldn't be upset
I ended
with
up
either
going
one.
with Joe Musgrove, San Diego kid, the full San Diego experience. Plus, he's from an area that loves NASCAR. I mean, Jimmy Johnson could do it if he was, non-Padre. They should probably have Jimmy Johnson do it, to be honest with you. Guy's like one of the best NASCAR drivers of all time, and he's from El Cajon. So.
Went to Granite Hills.
Yeah, Granite Hills Eagle. Like Trenton Brooks. Giles Brothers. Anyway, 833-288-0973, 833-288-0973. Let's get out to Martin and Santee. Martin, what's going on, man?
Braden, good to talk to you, and glad you enjoyed your trip to Italy.
I did.
Not a big NASCAR fan, but I really like, and Frank, your idea. This is really more regional. When Fontana closed down, I mean, I always think of just San Diego collectively. I mean, I'm basically a native, been here since 1962, and when I go out, I mean, I just love to see people out in our city. So this brings a whole nother element nationally. You've got your golf fans that watch Torrey Pines every year. We don't have football anymore. We don't have basketball, baseball when we get an occasional national game, but this changes the whole dynamic to a different, basically, fan base, which I think is kind of cool. It's got to go along Harbor Drive for sure. I mean, it's got to just shoot down the coast somewhere in that vicinity, I would think. And also, too, again, this is much more than just East County and Jimmy Johnson. This is really a regional thing, and I think San Diego, because of just the draw that it is naturally, that why not make NASCAR an event too? And Braden, I like your idea. Make it an event, big time. Make it a fun place to be. A concert on Friday night. Down at Waterfront before all those things, all those San Diego things that give you that pure San Diego look and experience. So appreciate all that you do, Frank. You bring great stuff to the show every day. And Braden, looking forward to keep listening. So take care. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Martin. Really appreciate the phone call, man. Always a great caller. I saw it in the chat with Kyle in the YouTube chat. But yeah, think about like the big events that happen here. They're parties. They're big parties. Those are the things that work. I mean, even like Over the Line. Like Over the Line's a big party, right? Like people go there to have a good time. Not necessarily play OTL. I mean, by most teams by about like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock are ready to go home. They're ready to go home. They're like, hey, they had fun, like been drinking all day, whatever. Like, I'm ready to get right out of here. I don't need to risk breaking my fingers any much further than that. You think about Del Mar. I mean, the racetrack at Del Mar, like opening day at Del Mar, and I've done multiple shows at opening day at Del Mar. That's a huge deal for a lot of people. And guess what those people are? They are casual, if that, horse racing fans. I mean, the amount of people that go to opening day at Del Mar, how many of those fans are actually diehard, I'm into horse racing? It's very, very minimal. Those people go on like a Tuesday afternoon. Those are the diehard horse racing people. But most people like to wear the hats, they like to dress up, bet a couple bucks on the ponies, whatever. Like, it's a party. And in California, you need to have things that are an event and a party because we have so much we can do here. So to entertain our time, you need to be able to put on a massive event. And if you can't do that, it's not going to work in Southern California. I think NASCAR can do that. I think this would be a fun place to have it. I think it's a good, and like Martin said, it's more advertising for tourism. I mean, with all the shots of now, and it's a different audience to come to San Diego that don't normally come to San Diego. We got a lot of baseball fans that come to San Diego. We get college football fans for the Holiday Bowl during downtimes. It's a big reason why the Holiday Bowl exists, is for tourism. When you see you get a little bit when it comes to the Aztecs and a little bit with golf, but it's another avenue to bring people here to San Diego. I'm in all favor of hosting as many events as possible. We're a great city that should be hosting so many different events. If we had the right facilities for all these things, we'd be hosting even more. We had no foresight when it came the whole stadium situation with the Chargers. Everybody was so like, I don't want to build a billionaire, but it should have worked out a deal in which they were to keep some of the money that comes through, and you would be selling things out. That's why Snapdragon was important, but they didn't build it big enough. That's why that was a big component. Now, San Diego State has no obligation to build something for the city of San Diego. They bought the property. They built what was for them. They have it potentially expandable to a higher thing. But the reality was, if you're a major city, you need major facilities. And they should have built the damn stadium way bigger than they did down in Mission Valley. Who knows what you would have been able to host? I mean, Orlando being able to host the Pro Bowl and stuff like that is ridiculous. I know their stadium's big, but you should have been able to build a stadium that size so you can host major events. I mean, think about how limited the Holiday Bowl is now in terms of getting teams to come play here. They're expanding the playoff. If you want to put a bid in to potentially host a playoff game, it's got to be a facility that can host that. We didn't do that because we keep looking at the tree instead of looking at the forest. But NASCAR is a good opportunity. The more events we could bring to San Diego, I think the better, because San Diego has proven that they can be a good sports town. Dexter in Spring Valley. I know he's a motorsports fan as well. Dexter, you're on the Braden Surprenant Show. What's going on?
I'm doing all right. Hey, guys, okay. I'm going to give you guys kind of the 50-50. Okay. Let's go with the negative really quick. Hopefully, if we do this, it won't be like Vegas, what they did. Because remember, Vegas, the people there complained about, how the course was set up and everything. And also the inconvenience. Like, remember, when Long Beach has their race also, they have to shut down a huge portion of the roadways for like a few days before the race. Because don't forget, it's not just the race. It's qualifying, it's practice. It's all, it's a lot more to it than that. Frank should have mentioned that. So there is that. Having said that, okay, the negative part, this thing will kick major lower backside. I'm censoring myself because we could have the track going along the convention center on Harbor, going up Harbor, right past, PCH and keep going upward. There's a long stretch right there that could be like a killer section, and it would rival what they did with the template they did in Chicago. Because the Chicago template's really cool. It's 2 boxes, and the only thing is the way that they set up. I mean, our setup could be like a true road course that could rival Long Beach, like a rival Vegas, and hopefully maybe even compare to Monaco. So I hope that we get this. I really, really, really do. And I also hope that the construction down by the Embarcadero will be done by then so that we can host it. So that's my $1.50 there. Oh, and the other part. Hopefully NASCAR will not want this in the summer because remember, we got a lot of things going on in the summer, like Comic-Con. And if they do that there, it's going to be a disaster. The festival should be at Petco Park for sure. But I think the race should be held probably sometime in April or May because, that would be the most opportune time when we hardly ever get any rain around there anyways. So there you go, boys.
Dexter, appreciate the phone call. I do think like in the middle of the summer, it's not as beneficial to San Diego as if it was at the beginning or near the end of the NASCAR season. When's the NASCAR season? When it start? February?
NASCAR season starts in the middle of February and runs all the way to the beginning of November.
Right. I mean, at the beginning and the end of the NASCAR season would be better for the city of San Diego because those are not as big travel times for us, right? Like in the middle of summer, we don't need extra tourism. We already have a ton. Mm-hmm. So yeah, he does bring up a good point there. I'm not as into motorsports as you are, but like what I have gotten from like the Vegas thing. Formula One is way different than NASCAR.
Yeah.
It's so like it's a little bit different comparison on that. But it's funny you brought up Monaco. Like I immediately thought of like Monaco for because it's climate relatively the same and having that beach flair to it would be really cool. I mean, more events here, I think the better.
No, absolutely. And Formula One is a lot different than NASCAR. Those are purpose-made bullets that are very low to the ground, very
Their tracks
rigid.
are way different.
Yeah, they're very rigid cars. So like going over street bumps, not a fun time for those cars. Where NASCAR stock cars they're big, they're cars. They do run softer. So going over the bumps is still not going to help you, but it's also not going to hurt nearly as much. There are a lot of things in the summer that they can take advantage of. And the reason why I say the summer is because Chicago, their street circuit is going to run the 4th of July weekend. You can take advantage of the San Diego County Fair if you're NASCAR, have something there. You can take advantage of the convention center. There are some places downtown where you kind of like, that looks great, but would it work? I wouldn't want cars going into a heavy braking zone downhill, like where the parking garage is in front of the convention center. You want to try to avoid a place with a median, like the palm trees and the foliage in the medians. You'd want to try to avoid those places because it makes for narrow racing, and God forbid anything happens, it's another dangerous spot for the guys to go through. But that said, though, there are a lot of options that you can have it downtown.
And I'm curious to see what the track would potentially look like. I think it'd be pretty cool. But again, the more events, the better. Kevin and Shulvis here on the Braden Surprenant Show. Got a little bit of time here. What do we got?
Yeah, same thing, Braden. If NASCAR wants to write the bill, foot the bill, and do the construction on fixing all the roadway here, that would have to be fixed, no matter where you put it. The roads down in San Diego City proper, they're an absolute disaster. In case you haven't been out there lately, so I wouldn't ride a mini bike out there, let alone a several $1 million NASCAR. So if they want to do that, great. Let's fix the roads, take the money from NASCAR and have them do it. But if they expect the city taxpayers to all of a sudden shell out God knows how many tens of millions to fix roadways that need to be fixed, by the way, and are way behind from being fixed, that's going to be a bit of a problem.
I think NASCAR is probably going to fix it and do it, all that. What was the deal with the Chicago race? Did they pump the money in there?
They did not have to repave anything for Chicago. Now, the reason why Vegas repaved is because of Formula One, and there are certain track standards. They're going to look for a place that has the best roadways downtown. And from what I'm seeing in the chat, Tyler M saying he was told by an MTS employee that they would not allow them to go over the tracks, which I completely understand. I completely understand them not wanting to run over trolley tracks. But I don't see the city or NASCAR paying for a big repave. I think you can find an area downtown that more or less is quality. Like they don't repave Long Beach every year to run a race.
Well, no, in the city of San Diego, they usually pave areas that are convenient for them to pave. Like I did notice that the 4th of July parade route in Scripps Ranch got a brand new pavement to it. And the mayor usually is at that one. So I'm not saying that was intentional, but I'm just saying I noticed that particular track through Scripps Ranch got brand new pavement the last couple of weeks. Coincidence? Potentially. Some of the hangups on the roads, I think that's part of the deal. That's why the things get figured out. They fix those when they negotiate these contracts and everything like that. I can't imagine it costing the city of San Diego too much money to do this, just because we've seen them not really participate in things like that in the past without it being a major tourist attraction for them in terms of tourism. So we'll see how it plays out. Hopefully it happens. There are some benefits to being in the summer, some cons of being in the summer. For Frank Marchese, I'm Braden Surprenant. Got a lot of news about the Padres coming up on tomorrow's show. National League West, Fernando Tatis Jr. was in the news just moments ago. Maybe Gwen and Chris will have that. If not, we'll talk about it tomorrow on the Braden Surprenant Show, San Diego Sports Station, 97.3 The Fan.